The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, a broke and in-debt financial planner whose wife is cheating on him hatches a plot to fix his life if he can just find the right hitman. Houston, Texas, 2010. This is Ron Martin, an out-of-work financial planner, and his wife Jane, a part-time nurse. They've been married for 10 years, have fallen out of love, and have no children. Ron is eating breakfast and watching internet porn. Jane believes Ron is rich, so she's been cheating on him with a doctor at work for over a year, hoping Ron will divorce her and she'll get a settlement. She takes an Oxycontin as she gets ready for work.
So obviously, this is not a healthy relationship, but there's something else. Ron has a secret. He invested heavily in video stores. And the genius lost his tail. Now he's got to find a way out.
Jane left her phone in the kitchen and it buzzes. It's a text from Dr. Kevin Lee, Jane's lover, confirming a plan to meet her at a hotel after work. He gets an idea. Ron goes into the bathroom to hand Jane the phone and tells her they're about to take out a new investment, a very, very big life insurance policy.
So here's a free life hack. If your spouse puts a large life insurance policy on you with them as the sole beneficiary, sleep with one eye open.
The next day, Jane signs the policy. In just 24 hours, Ron has gone from bankrupt cuckold to brazen criminal. Back at home, Ron turns on private browsing and searches for info on leave no trace murders.
Ron is proving to be a very dumb criminal, but he thinks he's brilliant because all dumb criminals think they're brilliant. Here's the thing. Take it from an FBI agent. There is no such thing as private internet browsing.
While searching for the perfect murder, Ron has a brilliant idea. He will hire someone else to do it.
So the criminal genius puts an online ad out for a hitman. Hitmen are hard to find because the good ones aren't going to answer your ads. The bad ones are already in prison and doing 25 years to life. So what Ron is looking for is the dime a dozen guys who claim to be hitmen but really aren't.
Ron finds a few good candidates advertising their services on a dangerous jobs posting.
So he writes, "Hi, I saw your post about killing somebody for an insurance payout. Love to learn more." But it's okay, because he is on private browsing.
He emails them to set up a series of interviews on Saturday.
He's hosting a hitman job fair. So where else would you meet a hitman you met online to kill your wife? In a seedy bar.
Ron meets the potential candidates.
We've had lots of years. Lots and lots of years.
One after another. Some have potential. Others have too little experience.
I'm the man you need, whatever you need done, however you need it done, I can do it. I mean, whatever you need, I can do it quietly, it can be messy, I mean, you tell me.
But one sticks out for his enthusiasm and bargain rate. Carl Belt.
So here he's got the cheapest guy on the internet. What could go wrong?
Ron gives Carl a photo of his wife, Jane Martin, and a picture of her car. He tells Carl about Jane's daily activities, where she works, when she leaves the house, and asks Carl to take care of this before the weekend. Though he doesn't have experience as a hitman, Carl does have a small criminal record and has served jail time for aggravated assault.
So he thinks aggravated assault is what, like halfway to murder? That's in my resume, I can do this.
Carl settles in with a beer and researches online the best way to kill someone.
The more blood you leave, the more evidence you leave. So he's in a conundrum. And Carl's got a problem. He gets squeamish around blood. This is a poor trait for a hitman.
After reading various how-to websites, Carl decides that he will ambush Jane and strangle her to death. Strangling involves no weapons other than a rope, and if done properly, it can be very clean.
You can learn to do anything online, anything. But if you do, you leave breadcrumbs, and the FBI will know what you learned.
With his plan in place, Carl searches for more information on Jane Martin and finds her profile on social media. He looks through a few pictures to study the face of his next, well, first victim. The next morning, Jane Martin leaves for work at the hospital. On the way, she posts on social media that she's going to pick up some groceries and asks if anyone needs anything at the hospital.
People share everything on social media. Hi, I'm stepping off this curb. I'm at this coffee shop. This is fabulous for stalkers. You might as well have strapped a GPS to your body.
Meanwhile, Carl has barely slept and is stalking Jane online. He sees her post and realizes this is his chance to take care of business.
Carl is thinking, being a hitman is the easiest thing in the world. All you have to do is show up and kill someone. Oh, Carl, you don't have a clue.
Carl approaches the grocery store and spots Jane's car in the parking lot. He waits till she goes inside, then exits his vehicle and approaches hers, and tries to see if the door is unlocked so he can hide in the back seat. But the door is locked. He is momentarily at a loss for what to do. Carl hides behind Jane's car and waits. Jane Martin is now on her way back outside with her groceries and a box of donuts. Jane unlocks her door, and while she is putting the donuts in the car, Carl ambushes her. Carl uses a rope and a technique he's learned from watching strangling video tutorials online. Jane puts up little fight, and her life is lost. Carl has moved Jane Martin into the passenger seat. They take off. Carl then makes a call to Ron to inform him the job is finished.
Whoa. Hey, dude, I killed your girl. You sure?
Ron is delighted and sighs with relief. He says the insurance money will take a few weeks to arrive, but he will reach out to Carl to settle up when it does. Ron decides to celebrate and heads out that afternoon to get some happy hour drinks with friends. He has more than one too many, and no one knows he is secretly celebrating his wife's murder. When he gets home, he notices the lights are on and the door is unlocked. Someone is there. He smells something cooking and cautiously heads to the kitchen, where he is greeted by what should be his dead wife, Jane.
So say you're Ron. That's when you go back in your short-term memory and think, what did I drink?
Hey, honey. Oh, really? In the middle of the day?
Ron Martin has discovered his wife of 10 years, Jane, has been cheating on him with a doctor at the hospital where she works as a nurse. Ron decides he's going to murder Jane, but he's not going to do it himself. Ron hires Carl Belt, who kills Jane Martin. But after a night of drinking and secretly celebrating her death, Ron gets home and can't believe what he sees. Jane is still very much alive and making a delicious pot roast.
Hi, honey.
He says hello to her, then exits the room and immediately calls Carl.
Hello?
What the hell did you do? You killed the wrong woman!
What do you mean I killed the wrong person?
Who can't believe what Ron is saying, and Ron sure sounds drunk.
Yes, I'm drunk. You're an idiot.
You know when your boss said, hey, you screwed up this job and it was embarrassing and you were sweating it out? Imagine how Carl's feeling right at that moment. He's told that you didn't kill my wife, and he's remembering, yeah, I pretty much sure I did. And so now you don't know whether you're dreaming or whether Ron's trying to rip you off. You have no idea what to think. And Ron is sitting there saying, what's going on? And then dinner's served.
In order to prove his point, Ron snaps a selfie of them and sends it to Carl.
What? No, get off of me.
He sends it to Carl.
Carl's got to be thinking to himself, I killed somebody. If it wasn't Jane Martin, who did I just kill?
Carl looks at the photo and something doesn't seem right. He pulls up Jane Martin's social media profile. Multiple Jane Martins come up. Carl compares the profile of the Jane Martin he killed with another Jane Martin.
Oh my God.
He is stunned at how closely they resemble one another
They have the same car?
and nearly faints.
So Carl has killed the wrong Jane Martin. I mean, yes, there are two Jane Martins in Houston, and yes, they looked alike. Carl even did his homework, but he did it poorly. As if this case couldn't get more bizarre, it does. You see, the now deceased Jane Martin turns out to be an awesome human being. She works in a hospital. She never misses a day of work. She brings donuts into work. Everybody loves her. And Carl has killed her for no reason. But in an ironic twist, Carl could be home free at this point because he had no motive to kill this Jane. So the police have nothing to go on. They don't even know where to start. You don't put in your mind an accidental killing. He's home free if he walks away at that point. What's so hard about this kind of case is that police trace motive, they trace means, they trace connections, and there's no connection. There's no motive in this case to kill that particular woman. Even if it's insanity, there's indications of it at the crime scene. This has nothing. Carl is home free if he just keeps his head down and never does anything wrong again. Jane Martin and Ron's wife looked a lot alike, but their personalities could not have been farther apart. Ron's wife, Jane, was kind of unpopular. The men liked her, the woman didn't. She talked down to people. She came off as arrogant. She was just nobody's favorite.
Yeah.
Her co-workers also knew that even though she was married, she was having an affair with Dr. Lee, and she would also talk trash on her husband. She said that he was a deadbeat and that he had no sex drive.
The surviving Jane Martin was also known to have recently fired a nursing intern, Keith Marshall, by blaming her own sloppy and misfiled paperwork on him.
You're fired today. Get your stuff and get out!
One day after she cooks dinner for her husband and finds him acting strangely, she finishes up work, puts away some things in her desk drawer, and inside finds a note that says, "Death to you." Jane is terrified at the discovery of the message. She tries to reach her love doctor, but he doesn't answer.
Did you leave this note in my desk? This is not funny.
So she frantically calls her husband, Ron, and leaves a message about someone trying to kill her.
You need to call me as soon as you can.
Ron Martin discovered that the hitman he hired to murder his wife Jane Martin made a bizarre and lethal mistake and killed the wrong woman named Jane Martin.
You got the wrong woman.
The hitman Carl Belt now realizes what he has done and is determined to kill the right Jane Martin to get his insurance payout. Meanwhile, the real target, Jane Martin, is alive but fearful after receiving a death threat at her office. Jane frantically leaves her husband Ron a message that says she's going to leave work early because she's terrified. She makes a post on social media that she got a note that someone is trying to kill her. Carl sees the post and leaves for work.
And this time, Carl is not going to waste his opportunity to kill the right Jane Martin.
Jane is walking to her car, but this time, Carl has planned things well in advance. Carl is hiding behind the stairs near the parking lot. He sees that the Jane Martin he is about to kill drives the same model of car as the Jane Martin he already killed. When Jane turns her back on him, Carl rushes out behind her and starts choking her with the same rope. He pushes Jane into the passenger seat, where she goes out of consciousness.
Two wrongs never make a right. An experienced hitman would never try to make good on this crime. And if they did, they wouldn't do it in the exact same way at the exact same place. And most importantly, they wouldn't rush it.
Carl steps into the driver's seat and takes off. While in the car, Jane wakes up. She realizes she's been kidnapped, but she pretends to be dead. Carl is driving erratically. Jane pocket dials 911 on her phone. An operator answers and hears what's going on. Carl glances over and realizes Jane is still alive. She tries to fight him off.
The first murder went so quickly, Carl just assumed the second one would too. But this is no plain Jane, and she is fighting back.
But Carl eventually wins.
Carl then decides it would be the smartest thing to take the body to the exact same place he took the first body. Carl believes that at the end of this rainbow is a pot of gold. He chose the wrong rainbow. At the end of the one he's following is a prison shower. He's thinking, what can go wrong? He's like an ant doing the same thing over and over by rote, but he's doing the wrong thing. So it's the next day, and police now have two suspects. The first is the ex-intern Keith. Now, Keith has admitted to the police that he left a death threat in Jane's desk drawer.
I can explain that.
Yeah, that's creepy. Yeah, that's horrible. But it's not a conviction because he has a solid alibi. And that alibi is corroborated by everyone who works with him.
All right, thank you.
The next suspect is the logical one, Jane's spouse, Ron Martin. Now, police have already learned from her coworkers that she was having an affair. That's motive. Then they found out that just days before Jane's murder, Ron took out a large insurance policy on her life with him as the sole beneficiary. So what you've got now is motive, proof of motive, but you're lacking one important thing. They don't have physical evidence to connect Ron Martin with his wife's murder. But the police have another mystery to figure out. Two Jane Martins dead within just several days of each other. Is there a serial killer out there? Somebody who hates the name Jane Martin?
Investigators look into any phone records, texts, or digital footprints that may have been left before the murder and discover one new number in particular that shows up frequently in Ron's phone the week before the murder. That number belongs to Carl Belt.
Hello?
So they bring in Carl for questioning, and they find that he's not the savviest criminal they've ever interviewed. Big surprise. They also go through his digital records and find out that he has pulled up the social media pages of the first Jane Martin who was killed. If there was a Hall of Fame for dumb criminals. Carl just earned his way in on the first vote.
With all the pieces fitting into the puzzle, investigators are left with only one question from this killer. Why in the world would he leave the body of his second victim in the same place as the first? When a novice hitman kills the wrong person because she has the exact same name as his intended victim, he tries to make good on his promise. But he decided to carry out the crime in exactly the same manner and leaves a long trail of clues that led authorities right to him.
My grandmother would be smart.
Yeah. So let's think about Carl's mindset at this moment. He's killed the first person and seemingly got away with it. Except for the fact that he killed the wrong person, it was perfect. So now he's killing the second person and he says, I'm going to dump the body at the exact same place. That way the police will never bother me. What can go wrong? Carl gets life in prison without parole. Ron gets life in prison for orchestrating the hit. And remember Keith, the ex-intern? He gets his job back at the hospital because apparently they were short one nurse. Just when you think you've seen everything, here comes this bizarre case of mistaken identity. You have two women with the same name, same cars, they even look alike. And then you roll in a vengeful husband and Carl Belt, and what do you get? So what have we learned? 1, murder's never the answer. And 2, even though everything you read in the internet is true, you still shouldn't believe what you read about a hitman. The case of the murder of Jane Martin and the murder of Jane Martin reminds me of something that we used to say in the squad bay. The Riddler is fiction. He's a made-up character. We were rarely stunned by the brilliance of criminals. We were more often astounded at how foolish they were. The thing about this case that rocks me to the core, like all other cases like this, is how casual people are with the lives of people who've lived 30 years and have 40 more to go. How can you be so callous?
The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. When a man chasing the American dream accidentally commits a murder, he tries to escape his past by changing his identity again and again and again. Heidelberg, Germany, 2004. Richmond Gruber, a smart, handsome, and ambitious young man, grows up poor, but his days are rich with American television. On his 24th birthday, he packs his bags and flies to the United States to pursue the American dream. Cox's Creek, Kentucky. Gruber's tourist visa allows him to stay in the country for just 2 months, but he wants to stay for good. He meets a local student, Virginia Potts, at the campus library. She's attractive, but looks lonely. Gruber introduces himself.
I'm Richmond, by the way.
Virginia.
1 month and 29 days later, they marry.
I do.
Richmond borrows money from Virginia and enrolls as a freshman at the college. Richmond, a finance major, and Virginia, a biology major, are volunteers for a nonprofit organization to protect the endangered American wolf. Richmond is the campus treasurer. But all is not as it seems.
Mr. Gruber, I need to talk to you.
While working in the library, Richmond is approached by the group's campus president, Don Spicer. Don tells Richmond that withdrawals of over $10,000 have been made from the group's account and are not backed up by expenses.
It's $10,000 missing from your account, and we need to find out why.
Don accuses Richmond of stealing the money. Richmond denies the allegations, and the conversation turns into an argument. Fed up, Don resolves to let the police decide Richmond's fate. But Richmond decides he can't allow this to happen.
Wait, President Spicer, wait!
Richmond grabs his money box and smashes it over Don's head, cracking his skull. Richmond is shocked by his actions, but soon realizes that he's dead.
Talk about your bad turn of events. This was a robbery that kind of turned into a murder, and once you've committed murder, there's no going back.
Richmond wonders if he can hide what he's done. He props up Don's body at a library desk and surrounds him with books. To any passers-by, it would appear that Don fell asleep studying.
This is interesting. Richmond isn't trying to hide the body. He's just trying to buy himself some time. He's got some time.
He then returns to his room, cleans up the evidence, packs his bags, and leaves town. On his way out of the dorm, he sends a text message to his wife and then throws away his phone. With the money he stole, he pays cash for a bus ticket west.
While Richmond is technically a fugitive, he's given authorities no reason to suspect him of anything. He just looks like a bum who's left his wife, and he's left no evidence.
Richmond, who spent thousands of hours watching American TV in the 90s, has arrived at the center of the entertainment industry.
Hi, I'm Rich Roberts.
He loses his German accent and begins introducing himself as Rich Roberts, an ex-Harvard law student who dropped out to pursue screenwriting. Rich applies for an entry-level job in the mailroom of a talent agency.
A lot of people, when they're trying to keep their identity a secret, move to a totally different kind of place. That's what Rich Roberts did. But he has to play by the rules. He still needs papers. What he does is he finds the name of a deceased child, a child who was born about the same time he was. Then he gets a copy of the birth certificate, and he uses that to get a new social security number. Rich even gets a driver's license so that when the talent agency runs a background on him, not only do all of his papers come up, but he comes up squeaky clean.
The mailroom job pays barely above minimum wage, and Rich is quickly burning through the money he stole.
Hi.
Eyeing a way out, at a work event, he meets a divorced 51-year-old veteran screenwriter, Denise Hawkins, and charms his way into her bed. Within a week, Rich moves out of a hostel and into Denise's beautiful Beverly Hills home.
Yeah, I was in Harvard Law.
He tells her all about his law school days and his childhood in rural Pennsylvania, including being pen pals with Francis Ford Coppola.
It's so awesome.
It's all a lie, of course, but he's really good at telling lies. All of these guys are. And they have no moral problem with doing it. It's just part of doing business.
I know. He's so fun. I'm so happy he's here.
Denise tells everyone that the talented young artist is simply renting a room at her house.
Mom, I'm home!
But her own son, John, suspects otherwise. John, a military intelligence officer in the Marines, has just arrived home for 2 weeks leave, and he's not a fan of his mother's new house guest.
Ridley, John Rich.
Rich.
He senses something flimsy about Rich's charming stories.
John's a sharp guy. In the service, you meet a lot of people, you see a lot of things, and your BS detector is at high gain.
His first night home, when John hears Rich sneak into his mother's bedroom, he becomes determined to stop the affair. The next day, John sneaks into Rich's rented room and opens the Harvard dropout's bags. He rifles through Rich's belongings and takes his tourist visa. He finds a journal with handwriting in German on some pages. John drops the notebook on top of the bag and leaves armed with information to confront this so-called Rich Roberts.
John isn't afraid of any confrontation, which is why when Rich returns to his room, he finds his bag unzipped and his notebook open.
John is having breakfast when Rich walks in and says hello to him in German.
Guten Morgen.
John does a double take. This is not what he expected. Probably didn't expect to have bratwurst for breakfast either.
Rich nonchalantly tells John that he studied abroad in Germany and fell in love with the language. But when John pulls out Rich's original German tourist visa, Rich stops smiling.
How do you explain this?
John tells Rich to leave immediately.
You need to get out of this house.
Richmond Gruber, an aspiring German immigrant, tries to achieve the American dream, but a school administrator, Don Spicer, discovers that Richmond has been stealing money from the organization. Richmond accidentally kills Don and leaves for Los Angeles. He poses as Rich Roberts and charms his way into the life of an alcoholic divorcee, Denise Hawkins. But Denise's son discovers some conflicting information.
Sorry we got off on the wrong foot, okay?
Yeah, me too.
Rich invites John to the backyard to try and smooth things out by talking guns and drinking beer. John seems hesitant but likes guns and beer too much. Rich drops a sleeping drug in his drink, and John passes out on the spot. In Denise's basement, Rich pulls out a chainsaw and does his best Leatherface impression. John, passed out from the Rohypnol in his drink, is asleep on the floor. Rich takes him apart.
He'd already killed once, so he was willing to kill again. But in order to keep the ruse going, he had to eliminate evidence. What the genius didn't know is that when you use a chainsaw, you splatter blood and flesh on the floor, the walls, even the ceiling. While trying to eliminate evidence, he multiplied it 1,000 times.
After Rich has murdered John, he works at a furious pace to thoroughly clean up the basement and bury John's mutilated body in the backyard. Denise staggers home that night, and Rich is already in bed as if nothing has happened. Denise wakes him, and he gets up. The next morning, Rich is making breakfast for a hungover Denise.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
She wonders where her son John is. Rich informs her that after going out last night, John received a top-secret directive from the Marines and had to leave right away. And it was hard to see him depart. Almost a year has passed, and John Hawkins has not returned to his mother Denise like Rich told her he would. Rich has one more loose end to tie up. First, he quits his job and doesn't answer any more calls, texts, or emails. He plans to poison Denise by tainting her drink. Denise is at home drinking alone as usual. At this point, she has no idea what drink she's on. She starts to feel a little queasy and heads to the bathroom to throw up. She mistakenly slips and hits her head on the hard porcelain rim and passes away. Rich walks up to the house with a bottle of wine and the Rohypnol. He smells something nasty in the air. He walks in and sees something he never expected. Denise is dead. Rich suddenly realizes his job is done here and slowly walks away.
Rich realizes Denise drinking herself to death has wrapped up a few loose ends, but he has to push the reset button now because there's another dead body in his life, which means a new name, a new location, a new job, and more.
Rich decides to take off in John's new car. He needs cash fast, and one way to do that is sell John's vehicle. Rich posts an ad to sell the car on some online classifieds, but decides he has only one option at this point, and that's to ditch the ride and leave.
Ditching the car is really the smartest and the only thing Rich can do, because a lot of people don't realize cars have their own fingerprints. It's called the vehicle identification number. And as soon as you enter that into computer databases, it tells you everything from the day it was built to the last owner.
Rich knows it's time to shift gears and start the next chapter in his life. Meanwhile, a reality TV house flipping show is filming a renovation of Denise Hawkins' home, except they don't say that the previous owner died there. The owner decides that he wants to install a brand new pool. During the renovation, he discovers the remains of a mutilated body. The authorities are not able to make an ID, but we know they're the remains of John Hawkins.
So now, Denise and her son John are the two roads that will take us to the true identity of Rich Roberts. But they're both dead. So we're left with no leads, no evidence, nothing that will tell us that Rich Roberts killed John and Denise.
The murderer shapeshifter, formerly known as Richmond Gruber, then Rich Roberts, has now taken the identity of a high roller professional poker player, Richard Regal.
I call.
His charm and attitude makes him appear as if he is perhaps from royalty and playing on an unlimited amount of funds.
Meanwhile, John Hawkins' abandoned car is found in the outskirts of Las Vegas. Authorities determined then that Rich Roberts is a person of interest in his disappearance. An all-points bulletin for Rich Roberts goes out to the Las Vegas police and all the regional authorities.
German immigrant Richmond Gruber is accused of stealing money and kills the accuser. He escapes to Los Angeles, changes his name to Rich Roberts, charms a wealthy alcoholic widow, and then kills her son, John. Rich then heads to Las Vegas for a new role as Richard Regal, but the law's catching on to his game. Investigators find Richard's address and are surprised to discover that such a popular high roller actually lives on the outskirts of town. They break in, but he's gone without a trace. 1 month later, Rich Regal has relocated and is now masquerading as Rick Kennedy. He claims to be a distant relative of the famed Kennedy clan. Rick meets and quickly proposes to a real estate mogul, Kelly Davis.
Rick is now on his fourth identity. Fourth. And here's the problem. You've got Joe Schmo turning to John Doe. Well, Joe Schmo doesn't have fingerprints on file, neither does John Doe. Ultimately, you have to find the original person.
Rick convinces Kelly to elope. He doesn't provide Kelly with much detail besides that most of his relatives have died or are too busy to attend a wedding. Kelly is okay with that, but she asks that Rick at least have a best man. So her dog Oliver fulfills the duty.
Come on, if you're getting married, that's something you gotta look into. But maybe Kelly was afraid of what she'd find out.
Kelly asks Rick to join her real estate empire. He does surprisingly well, and the empire grows. He also seems to enjoy his new life of luxury and hobnobbing with the Phoenix elite. Kelly gives birth to a son, Ricky. It is the first child for both.
Kelly is unwittingly living with a man who has murdered 2 people in cold blood, and now all he has to do is stay Rick Kennedy, and there's no reason for authorities to suspect him of anything.
Phoenix, Arizona, 2009. Rick leads a great life, making lots of money, but he doesn't know how to manage his good fortune and spends recklessly. Kelly hires a private investigator to look into Rick's life. The PIs uncover some troubling details about Rick. 1, he is not related to the Kennedys. He has never been to Harvard. And finally, he misappropriates funds, manipulates earnings, and writes off false expenses at Kelly's real estate agency, putting her company at risk of being audited and shut down.
Kelly needs to be very careful around Rick now, because while the PI has turned the information about Rick's shady dealings with her company, the PI hasn't turned the information about Rick being a serial killer.
In a letter, Kelly has laid out the grounds for a divorce. She says she intends to get full custody of Ricky and has decided to relocate to London, England. She also says that if he fights custody, she will file criminal charges about his fraudulent financial records at the firm.
This time, Rick has hit a new low. But it could have been worse. Kelly could have had him busted for a whole bunch of things, even though she didn't know the cold, hard truth about his past. And now, Rick can't even fight for custody of his son, because when you do that, you're giving people permission to look into your background. And if you looked into Rick's background, what would you find? Murder.
A year later, the divorce final, Rick faces a new harsh reality. He only gets to see his only son under court supervision 3 times a year. He spirals into a year-long depression.
At this point, Rick is at his most vulnerable point. Sociopaths never care about anything, and they don't know what to do when they do. And Rick wants his son back.
On a visit to Phoenix, Rick is ecstatic to see his son, even though a court supervisor is present. The two spend the afternoon playing sports and having a great time.
Daddy, I have already spent time with you.
But when Ricky Jr. is set to leave, Rick tells the court supervisor he needs to move something in the front seat. It's another ruse. Rick punches the supervisor and jumps into the driver's seat himself. When the supervisor comes around, he realizes Rick and Ricky are gone and immediately calls the police, who issue an Amber Alert. Rick Kennedy is a multiple identity shapeshifter who has assumed various personas over the years to protect the various murders and crimes he has committed. He has never been caught, but now is on the run. He's kidnapped his own son, Ricky, but it's only a matter of time before Rick and Ricky are found.
Rick couldn't tie up this loose end, and this court supervisor was able to provide the car description, the license number, and most importantly, the identity of the kidnapper. Now, the only thing police have to ask is, where are they going?
Las Cruces, New Mexico. Rick doesn't get far. While getting gas, he is recognized immediately and arrested without incident. While Rick is in custody, investigators make some shocking discoveries. His fingerprints match that of a Richmond Gruber in Kentucky, tying him to the murder of a college administrator, Don Spicer. Police also match him as the missing suspect in the murder of John Hawkins over 7 years ago. The authorities charge the shapeshifter, known as Rick Kennedy, for kidnapping and aggravated assault, Richard Regal for using a false name and information used for criminal intent, Rich Roberts for murder, and Richmond Gruber for murder. He is sentenced to life in prison.
After years and years, the man originally known as Richmond Gruber is finally taken down for dozens and dozens and dozens of crimes. If it hadn't been for wanting to be with his son, he'd still be out there. Maybe not as rich, but he'd be free. Ironically, it was humanity that brought an inhuman shapeshifter to justice.
The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, a 15-year-old boy disappears without a trace. 2 years later, he surprisingly reemerges in another country. But upon his return, things just don't seem the same. This is Thomas Gaines, a troubled kid from a troubled home. At just age 15, he already has 3 tattoos, one of which is a cross made of bones on his left hand. Thomas has developed a bad reputation around town for being physically and verbally abusive with his own mother, Janice Gaines.
Give me the mirror. What? That's my mother's mirror.
She's not in much better shape herself. Janice is a single mother who works the graveyard shift at the local donut shop. And she's developed a terrible addiction to heroin. And some would say, an even worse addiction to sweets. Janice's favorite activity is snoring her days away, which is fine with Thomas. It gives him and his much older siblings, Kimberly and Craig, ample opportunity to behave badly. Thomas was recently arrested for shoplifting computers, a felony.
Computers.
He's on the verge of being sentenced to juvenile detention. On a hot summer day in 2008, looking for distraction, Thomas steals $5 from his mother's purse. He grabs his wallet and backpack and heads out the door to play basketball at a local park with his friends. As night falls and the game wraps up, he calls home to ask for a ride. But as always, his mother is fast asleep. Annoyed, his older brother Craig tells him to just walk home instead. This is the very last time anybody will ever speak to Thomas Gaines. One quiet summer night, he disappears into thin air, and he's never heard from again.
When a teen is reported missing, especially when there's a history of drug addiction or abuse or conflict in the home, it is almost always treated as a runaway. And in almost all of those cases, the kids are found and brought home within 72 hours or not at all. The clock is ticking on Thomas Gaines.
The circumstances lead authorities to believe that Thomas ran away for any number of reasons. But as their critical 72-hour window closes, the police begin to worry that they won't find Thomas Gaines anytime soon.
So here's the quandary the police have. Did something really bad happen to this kid, or did he take foot bail because he was afraid of going to juvie? Now the police have to start looking at different options, and they have to do it right away, because 10% of these kids who go missing don't do it voluntarily.
In Thomas Gaines' case, the vital hours turn into days, and then weeks, and then very quickly, 3 months pass without a single clue as to the boy's whereabouts. Then, one night, the cops receive an urgent phone call. Thomas's older brother Craig is on the other end of the line. He says he sees his little brother outside the house trying to break into the family's garage. The police race to the scene. They search the Gaines' garage and the rest of the property. There's not a single sign of a break-in at the house. The cops question Craig and begin to wonder if he made up the story, and if so, why?
People make up stories to tell the police all the time. You wonder, is it for fun? Did they somehow misinterpret something they saw or the facts as they were told? Or sometimes it might just be a cry for help.
Two years after the disappearance of 15-year-old Thomas Gaines, cops receive a call from a police station in Italy. The man on the other end of the line says that a young man in their care recently escaped a European drug trafficking ring where he was forced to traffic narcotics. The young man claims he was kidnapped 2 years earlier from Pomona, California. His name is Thomas Gaines. The police are stunned. The Italian caller lets them know that although visibly traumatized, Thomas seems to be in good condition. He's even learned to speak bits and pieces of several languages, including French.
Now this is unbelievable. I mean, the odds of being found alive after being gone for 2 years has got to be somewhere like 1 in 10 million. You have a greater chance of being eaten by an alligator than you do of being found alive after being held captive for so long.
Hi, Miss Gaines.
Yeah.
Investigators arrive at Janice's door and inform her of the good news. Her long-lost son, Thomas, may have been found alive in Italy. Authorities need a family member to fly over to Europe to confirm his identity. The Gaines are in complete and utter shock. Finally, they have some of the answers to his disappearance and are thrilled he is alive. But Craig is uncharacteristically quiet, taking in all the news.
They found Tommy.
He seems shell-shocked at the news. A local church raises the money to pay for Kimberly, Thomas's older sister, to fly to Italy. Kimberly is known as the Good Gaines. She is kind, sweet, and a little naive. She's never traveled outside California before, let alone the United States. But she is really looking forward to positively identifying her little brother and ending her family's 2-year nightmare. Since Thomas's disappearance, her mother and brother have changed dramatically for the better. Janice has a new job as a bookkeeper, and Craig has just graduated from community college.
In situations where a teenager was abducted, there's a lot of trauma for the family of the victim that were left behind. Everybody needs to adapt back into the family and into the family's routine, especially the victim. But this is hard because they're all changed people.
Kimberly anxiously arrives at the police station. She's holding a stack of family photos. In another room, sitting quietly, is an older-looking teen, almost a man. Kimberly looks through a window at him. Could this young man in the corner of a foreign country 8,000 miles away from home really be her long-lost little brother? Thomas Gaines, a troubled 15-year-old kid, steals money from his mom and goes to play basketball, never to be heard from again. 2 years later, Pomona police receive a strange call from a police station in Italy that a young man in their care claims he was kidnapped 2 years earlier from Pomona, California, and that his name is Thomas Gaines. Investigators inform the Gaines family, and Thomas's sister Kimberly flies to Italy to identify him and bring him home. Police Station, Naples, Italy, 2010. Kimberly Gaines, with family photos in hand, enters a small room in which a teenager is sitting quietly. He quickly stands in disbelief. As he embraces her, she recognizes him immediately. On his left hand is his telltale cross tattoo. She quickly confirms to the authorities that this is her long-lost little brother. But authorities tell her not to expect much from Thomas right away. They say he may have been severely abused while in captivity and seems to have very few memories of his life before being abducted. He also speaks with a French accent.
In situations like this, the abductors want autonomous victims. They don't want somebody that they're going to have to lock into a room or always wonder if they're going to try to escape. So what they do is they brainwash them. They tell them that drug dealing is the most normal thing in the world to be doing. And besides, your family doesn't want you back anyway.
Satisfied, authorities release him.
You're coming home.
And the two of them head to the American consulate, where Thomas is issued a new U.S. passport. When Thomas and Kimberly arrive in California, they're greeted by a small family celebration and accompanied by some investigators.
Hi.
Thomas's mother, Janice, stands back surveying the scene. Kimberly pushes her towards Thomas. Janice looks at him in the eyes for a long time and then gives him a hug. Thomas looks around and realizes one person is missing, his brother Craig. He asks her where his older brother is, but she tells him he couldn't make it. Craig has just graduated from community college, but then checked himself into a drug treatment program. While the Gaines are overjoyed to have Thomas home, little things about him seem quite strange to them. Thomas's eyes have changed color. He always had bright blue eyes, but now they are a very somber, dark shade of brown. Also, his complexion is much darker and more olive. Thomas surprisingly opens up with his family some of the horrors of his captivity. They used chemicals on him to change his skin and complexion and the color of his eyes, so he would no longer be recognizable. The Gaines are rightfully horrified and want Thomas to get back to as normal a life as possible. Janice now lives in a very small studio apartment, so Thomas moves in with Kimberly and her husband in their trailer about 20 miles outside of town.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
He sleeps on a mattress on the floor. He quickly enrolls in the local high school as a senior. That's a much more rural life than where Thomas used to live in Pomona. Family thinks it's good for him to be around new schoolmates who don't know him from before and won't judge what he's been through.
This is the story of a child who's been kidnapped, then transported to Europe by a drug trafficking ring, and then who manages to escape. It's the stuff of books and bad direct-to-DVD movies.
A tabloid news program gets wind of Thomas's story and hires a local PI, Ron Dyson, to dig deeper into the story.
Hello?
Dyson shows up at Kimberly's trailer with a TV crew looking for Thomas.
Thomas here.
No.
Kimberly asks them to leave, but Thomas walks out and volunteers to be interviewed. Dyson is stunned by the boy's thick accent and his broken English. Dyson compares a picture of 15-year-old Thomas with the 17-year-old teen before him and thinks something isn't right. After hearing Thomas's harrowing tale about how his eye color has been permanently altered, Dyson contacts several top ophthalmologists to ask if eye colors can be changed by injecting them with chemicals. They all tell him no.
You can change your eye color with contacts, yeah, but with chemicals and eye drops, not so much.
Dyson contacts a dialect expert to see if a person's accent could change so dramatically, and if they would forget their native language after 2 years.
Again, the answer is no. I mean, they might pick up an accent, maybe even new ways of phrasing their sentences, but they're not going to forget their native language.
Dyson takes his suspicions to the Pomona police, but they are distracted by another case, a possible murder. Thomas Gaines, a troubled 15-year-old kid from Pomona, California, suddenly disappears without a trace. 2 years later, the police receive a strange call from the authorities in Italy. They say a young man named Thomas Gaines is in their care. His eyes are a different color, and he has a thick French accent. Thomas and his family try to resume a normal life, but a local private investigator, Ron Dyson, starts digging into his story, senses something is wrong, and contacts the Pomona police. Meanwhile, construction workers building a new subdivision in Pomona have unearthed the skeletal remains of a preteen boy. Found along with his bones are a t-shirt and basketball shorts, a dirt-stained backpack, and the wallet of a 15-year-old Thomas Gaines. Homicide detectives are concerned. They send the bones away for DNA testing. If the bones are Thomas Gaines, then who is the young man living with them? If the bones are not Thomas's, then whose are they? Authorities decide they must get DNA from Thomas Gaines. They visit the trailer and invite Thomas to come to the station with them to answer questions about his captors.
Okay, good.
Thomas obliges, and while at the station, they have him take a DNA test and fingerprints.
Yeah. You know, they didn't fingerprint him? I mean, really? That's the first thing you do. It is crucial to find out things like, who is this guy? The police run his fingerprints through the FBI database and Interpol. They get a hit, but they're stunned with the results. The person claiming to be Thomas Gaines is actually a French national by the name of Jacques Gobert. He's known to law enforcement agencies in Europe as an impersonator of missing children. He even has a nickname, the Changeling.
Each time Jacques was exposed as an imposter, he would casually admit to his crime and move on in the dead of night to a new town and start again. Pomona Police Department, 2010. Pomona police press Jacques for details on how he ended up impersonating Thomas Gaines. Jacques says, "I'm not a bad person. I just want to be loved. I just want a family of my very own for once." He happily admits that he was living in a youth shelter in Italy, but he was on the verge of being discovered. So he decided to steal the name and identity of a real person this time, an American. So it would be harder for Italian authorities to confirm. At night, he snuck into the shelter's office and called the U.S. Center for Missing and Exploited Children, disguised as one of the employees.
Jacques basically describes himself to the woman on the phone, and she checks her databases and finds that this kid bears a strong resemblance to a kid who went missing out of Pomona 2 years before. And so what if the eye color doesn't match? Everything else was so close.
The U.S. Center for Missing and Exploited Children quickly emails Jacques a picture of Thomas Gaines on the shelter's computer. He thinks he closely resembles the American boy and can easily pass as him. Gobert confirms that the missing teen is at the shelter standing in front of them.
Now the con is on for Jacques. He studies the picture and finds this tattoo on the kid's hands. Next stop, the tattoo parlor, where this genius gets the exact tattoo on his hand, right about there. Final stop, the Naples Police Department. And that's how it happened. But now the Pomona police aren't just looking at Jacques as an imposter. They're looking at him as a murder suspect.
Police arrest Gobert on another charge, forgery.
At this point, there's more questions than answers. And two of those questions are, number one, what happened to Thomas Gaines? And number two, why are the Gaines family playing along with the charade that Jacques is Thomas?
When police get the DNA back from the bones, it's a match for Thomas Gaines. They begin to interrogate Jacques. He doubles down on his story of impersonating the boy, but says he had nothing to do with the boy's actual disappearance. But he says the only family member who avoids him is Thomas's older brother, Craig. He tells the police he thinks Thomas's brother had always known he was an imposter, but he's not sure why. Jacques Gobert is a con man in his early 20s from France. He has duped a long-suffering family and authorities from two different countries into believing that he's Thomas Gaines from Pomona, California. But 3 months after Gobert moved to Pomona, the real Thomas Gaines' remains were unearthed by a construction crew. Jacques breaks down and admits he is an imposter, but has no idea who killed the real Thomas Gaines. Pomona detectives inform Janice Gaines about the discovery of her son's remains and the identity of the young man who had claimed to be Thomas Gaines. Janice is stunned and tearful. She says that she began to suspect the young man was not her son, but she so badly wanted to believe it. Craig is less emotional, but he denies knowing anything about his brother's disappearance. A few days later, the police visit Craig in his apartment to question him again, but they find him dead of a drug overdose, which they rule a suicide. Janice breaks down when police tell her the news about Craig. She knows why Craig killed himself. 2 years ago, after Thomas disappeared, Craig admitted to his mother that he killed Thomas, choking him in a drug-induced rage. He buried Thomas's body in the woods close to their house.
Janice probably kept Craig's secret all these years because of her own guilt, shame, and to protect the one son she still had left.
Janice Gaines is found guilty of accessory to murder and goes to prison for 10 years. Meanwhile, Jacques Gobert pleads guilty to perjury and possessing and obtaining official documents under false pretenses. For his callous and thoughtless impersonation of a missing boy, Jacques is sentenced to 6 years.
This is a case with multiple tragic endings. It's the story of a family who loses a child only to have him resurface years later and then to lose him again to the most unimaginable circumstances. On the other hand, a man who just wished he had a family to love him went to great lengths to make that happen. And for a little while, maybe it was healing for both of them.
The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, when a bored housewife attempts to spice up her sex life by secretly having her new boy toy move into her walk-in closet. She gets way more than she bargained for. Roanoke, Virginia, 2011. Randy Roberts, 37, a mild-mannered small business owner looking for friendship and possibly love. Even though he's a button-up, slacks loafers kind of guy, he knows he has a lot to offer the right lady, and he's working hard at meeting her. After spending years singularly devoted to starting his own business, Randy's finally turning his focus to finding a wife. In hopes of improving his odds, Randy's joined several different online dating websites: Catch, Cinder, and one that cuts right to the chase, Let's Get Hitched. A very popular website for all types of ladies who have every detail of their dream wedding planned. Now they just need to find a groom. Randy dives right in and spends most of his nights combing through the profiles.
Within law enforcement, it's no secret that people who are late bloomers are more vulnerable to people who would do them harm, who are criminals, con men, and those who are less than trustworthy.
Meet Candace, 33. She's on the opposite end of the spectrum from Randy. She's often referred to as a social butterfly and has dated more than her fair share of men. But she can't quite seem to meet a good one, or at least one that isn't still in a garage band with his friends from high school. For the last 5 years, Candace has been struggling. She's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and takes several different antidepressant medications. Because of her condition, it's hard to find a full-time job. Candace delivers pizzas 3 days a week.
Hey, Randy.
Hey!
Candace has one really good tipper every Tuesday and Thursday, the polite, awkward man she only knows as Randy. At first, Candace doesn't really pay much attention to him, but the more she gets a look at his shy smile and coy side-eyed glances, she finds his fumbly flirting sweet, and all the attention gives a jolt to her self-esteem. Eventually, she finds herself dressing more and more provocatively on Tuesday and Thursday nights just to give him a thrill and make him blush.
Is that a heart? Oh man, that's amazing!
Finally, one night, Randy musters up the courage to ask his pizza delivery goddess out.
Well, I was wondering if you might want to go out on a date with me.
I would love to.
She gladly accepts. Their first date is like a lightning strike to him. He crushes hard for her within the first hour. Candace has never been courted like this before and appreciates Randy showering her with constant attention. Two young lovers in a whirlwind romance. Candace accepts Randy's surprise marriage proposal.
I'm no relationship expert, but common sense would say it's probably wise to know somebody for a full 4 seasons before jumping into a permanent relationship with them. And it's probably likely that people who know Randy and Candace were not thrilled about how quickly they were jumping into theirs.
When the engagement's announced, Candace's best friend since childhood, Larry, is very concerned. Candace has been confiding in him that Randy's completely Dullsville and rather lackluster in the bedroom. As it turns out, people aren't too thrilled on Randy's side either. Randy comes from an old, well-to-do Roanoke family, and his mother never wanted to cut the cord. In fact, she and Randy talk every day at 1 p.m. without exception.
I'm ready for this.
Mournfully, his mother had been heard on more than one occasion confiding to her bridge friends that Candace is by no means a suitable wife for her son. Candace is a girl with a reputation.
Rumor has it that the ladies at the bridge game considered Candace to be well navigated. I love that term. It means she's been around the block.
Despite the naysayers, Candace and Randy tie the knot in a small ceremony at the county courthouse. Then they move into a new home in an affluent Roanoke neighborhood. Much to everyone's surprise, the couple work in Randy's hardware store together. They build a thriving business. The store requires all of Candace and Randy's time and energy, and before they know it, the couple has spent every minute living and working together for 10 years.
Well, did you set the alarm or not?
Eventually, the stress of owning and running a successful business and the strain of spending too much time together takes its toll on Candace and Randy's marriage. Randy likes quiet conversations, long walks on the beach, and is a Sunday night feet up on the coffee table video games kind of husband. Something that's starting to repulse Candace.
Really?
She feels trapped in her marriage and longs for the carefree days of her youth spent with bad, broke musicians who smell of that seductive combination of sweat and cigarette smoke. Fed up and claustrophobic, Candace moves out and gets her own place.
Anyone who's been married for any length of time can tell you that couples who spend too much time together can start to get on each other's nerves, and that is the road to disaster and divorce. Oh, hey, I'm looking for one of these.
Over the next few months, Randy does his best to convince his wife to come home. On her part, Candace starts to realize life on her own again isn't quite as spectacular as she remembered. She also realizes that things about Randy aren't so bad, and that she actually really likes one thing in particular: his money. She makes up her mind to return home to her husband and to their somewhat blah but unfailingly steady and stable life. Then, one afternoon, a few months later, things take a dramatic turn. A frightened Candace frantically beats on her neighbor's door. When the woman answers, Candace pleads with her to call 911. Her husband, Randy, has just been murdered.
Someone murdered my husband!
Randy Roberts and Candace get married after a whirlwind courtship. After a decade together, the couple has hit a rough patch and decide to separate. Eventually, they reunite, and for a few short months, everything is fine. Trembling, Candace stands on the steps of her neighbor, begging the woman to call 911.
Randy has been murdered. Call.
She shockingly reveals that she has a jealous lover, Ricardo, who has just murdered her husband, Randy.
Call 911. Oh my God.
When a man is murdered in his home, 90% of the time, the wife is going to be your first suspect. So now the police have to begin evaluating the behavior and the actions of his wife.
Oh, here we go.
The police arrive at Randy and Candace's home and quickly notice things just aren't adding up. Randy Roberts' body is in a full state of rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis is the stiffening of the muscles in the body, making the body rigid. That means Randy's been dead somewhere between 14 and 18 hours, so it's not possible that he was just murdered.
The scene also looks staged. Randy's body is found stuffed in a bathtub, wrapped in a blanket, with his head covered with a white plastic convenience store bag. It seems to them it's supposed to indicate that he was strangled and suffocated to death. However, looking at the man's numerous wounds, it's pretty clear that Randy was bludgeoned to death.
With a number of wounds on the body, this is indicative of what we call overkill. And overkill is the continued assaulting of a body much beyond what is needed to cause death. And that's usually a sign of rage, anger, and betrayal.
Inside the closet a few feet away from the bathroom, police find an inexpensive black stiletto high heel covered in blood. To the police, it's pretty clear the stiletto is their murder weapon. Also, the sheets on the couple's bed have a story to tell of their own. They're in complete disarray, except for the very noticeable dried blood puddle left from the stab wounds that seem to match Randy's chest.
The location of a murder says so much about the crime. For instance, if the murder occurs in a bedroom, it's an indication that it could be two romantically involved people. If there's no robbery, it could simply be the settling of a personal grudge.
Candace Roberts' story has been pretty much blown to pieces by the evidence at the scene. So, the top two questions on the minds of investigators are, if Randy died the night before, what has Candace been doing the last 16 hours? A few months after Candace returned home, the couple had gone to downtown Roanoke to watch the fireworks on the 4th of July. After the show, Randy wanted to go home and turn in for the night. Excited by the spectacular show, Candace wanted to stay out late and hit up a few bars and party for the night.
Yes, see you in the morning.
All right.
Sleep good.
Bye.
Okay, love you.
Randy begrudgingly accepts and goes home, leaving Candace by herself. Candace stumbles into a dirty dive bar on the outskirts of downtown. As she walks into the bar across the room, she locks eyes with an exotic stranger. The good-looking young man, Ricardo, is a day laborer from Mexico. He's also out on the town, hanging with a friend, and they've been celebrating and drinking all night. After several shots of liquid courage, Candace convinces the two young men to come with her to a seedy, pay-by-the-hour motel where they can all celebrate in private with a threesome.
What was Randy thinking? I mean, he left his wife all alone downtown so she could go binge drinking. I mean, the woman had bipolar disorder. She was prone to making irrational decisions, and she had no impulse control.
Candace and Ricardo start a torrid affair. It's invigorating and exciting, and they are almost inseparable. But Ricardo is homeless, and Candace can only think of one solution.
You need a place to stay. Ta-da!
In her master bedroom walk-in closet, Candace has made up a sleeping bag for Ricardo, tucked away behind her clothes. It's the perfect place for her young Latin lover to squat and hide.
Time for work.
Every morning, she tells Randy she can't go into the office because of her bipolar disorder.
All right, I'll see you soon.
This lie is the perfect cover and leaves Candace free to spend all day having sex with Ricardo. Unfortunately for her, though, she really has no idea how on the edge she's actually living. Ricardo has a criminal record in Mexico City for aggravated assault.
Just imagine if Candace knew about Ricardo's criminal past. With her great judgment, who knows?
Candace!
After just a month of Candace and Ricardo's new living arrangements, Randy unexpectedly comes home to surprise his wife in the middle of the afternoon. When he approaches the bedroom door, he's startled to hear Candace moaning in ecstasy in their bedroom. Heartbroken and angry, Randy bursts through the bedroom door. Randy Roberts' wife has been cheating on him for months with her live-in lover, Ricardo, while Randy's at work. One day, Randy comes home to hear a loud, orgasmic moaning coming from their bedroom. On the verge of tears and full of frustration, a heartbroken Randy bursts through his bedroom door.
Oh.
He's completely shocked when he finds his wife, Candace, giving herself a personal pick-me-up.
Sorry?
Randy looks around the room. He reluctantly accepts that Candace is telling him the truth. Later that night, Randy tucks himself into bed next to his wife Candace and tries to go to sleep. As he's lying there in the quiet of the night, Randy hears something. It sounds to him like a man snoring. Randy rushes to his wife's closet and flings open the door.
Oh my God.
A startled Ricardo looks up as Randy pulls him out from under Candace's clothes.
Who is this?
Candace runs over to the closet in a flurry, trying to explain. Randy tells her he doesn't want to hear it. He knew something was wrong earlier in the afternoon when he caught her entertaining herself. Randy tells Candace he's going for a walk to calm down, and that Ricardo better be gone by the time he gets home. Candace is confused on what to do and how to handle the situation, but Ricardo calms her down and realizes he has to get rid of Randy permanently. When Randy returns home from his walk, Ricardo appears out of nowhere, jumping him from behind, and violently beats Randy to death with one of Candace's high-heel shoes. Candace hides in the closet where she can't see or hear anything. Ricardo lets her know when Randy's dead.
The moment Randy walks out of the house is significant because that's the moment that Candace and Ricardo start planning his death. And that's the moment that this goes from crime of passion to premeditated murder.
The murderous duo are emboldened by their heinous crime and celebrate by dragging Randy's lifeless body into the king-size bed with them. They proceed to have sex over and over again while Randy's corpse lies next to them. They even go as far as to record it and smile for the camera as they upload it to the cloud so that they can share it with Ricardo's buddies from the 4th of July. When they're done, they take Randy's body into the bathroom, and that's when they decide to cover his head with the white plastic bag. After a restful night's sleep, Candace gets up bright and early and pretends it's just another normal day.
We're in a hardware store.
Okay.
She grabs a shovel, plastic sheeting, duct tape, bleach, and some sodium hydroxide.
Say you're in a hardware store and somebody comes in and you see them purchase a shovel, some plastic sheeting, a little duct tape, some bleach, and some sodium hydroxide. Well, they're not painting their house, they're disposing of a body. Look at Murder for Dummies, page 1, supplies. That's what you buy.
Candace leaves the hardware store, but gets a worried phone call from her mother-in-law.
Hey, Barbara.
She hasn't heard from Randy for their daily 1 p.m. chat, and he's not answering his phone. Candace quickly tells her mother-in-law Randy's really under the weather and he'll call when he's feeling better. Randy's mother offers to bring her son some soup. She promises it's not necessary, but recognizes her lies are only going to buy her so much time with Randy's mom.
Oh my God.
With the pressure mounting, Candace has an anxiety attack, and her mania crashes into a dark stupor. That's when she hatches her scheme to turn in her young lover and blame him for murdering her husband in a jealous rage. As she drives up to her house, she jumps out of the car, running desperately to her neighbor's front door. The police quickly arrive at the Roberts home and find Randy's dead body in the master bathroom covered in a blanket. They hear odd noises coming from the master bedroom closet. With guns drawn, police throw open the closet door, and they are truly shocked at what they see next. Randy Roberts has been bludgeoned to death by his cheating wife's young lover in what she reported to police as a fit of jealous rage. The police have also just discovered what could be the most disturbing part of the crime in the couple's closet. The police burst through the master bedroom's walk-in closet.
Get your hands up! Don't move!
What they find is almost unimaginable. Candace Roberts' young boy toy is sprawled out on a sleeping bag in his underwear.
Get down, get down, get down.
They quickly arrest Ricardo for Randy's murder and put him in handcuffs. Candace Roberts has just dodged a major bullet, at least in her own mind. Her young lover has just been arrested for the first-degree murder of her husband, Randy. And she's free and clear and has her house and Randy's money all to herself. As the police talk to her, they inform her that they know Randy was killed 16 hours before she ever reported the crime. She feigns surprise. They let her know that they're not buying her story and want to know why she's been lying to them. They also want to know about the cozy setup in the closet. Police inform her that they have uncovered some pretty incriminating evidence. A video that shows the aftermath of her husband's murder that was uploaded to the cloud. They arrest a stunned Candace on the spot and read her rights.
If you're going to commit a murder, don't take selfies with the bodies. Do you know who does that? Idiots.
Candace Roberts and her lover Ricardo were both convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
This is the story of the American dream gone tragically wrong. And these three stories intersected in one bedroom, and the lives of three people were destroyed.
The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, when an innocent church scavenger hunt unexpectedly leads to a dead body, all signs point to foul play. To catch the killer, detectives will enter into a world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And this hunt is far from fun and games. Seattle, Washington, 2006. A seemingly quiet Halloween night, Detective Tyler Booker is enjoying a quiet patrol. He's reminiscing about his first case just weeks before, an open and shut homicide by a jealous husband. He's curious if every case will be so easy to solve. Perhaps it's a cruel irony that he then spots a man's leg sticking out from behind a dumpster near the local church. Detective Booker discovers what could be a discarded Halloween decoration of a dead body. But becoming suspicious, Booker checks the body for a pulse. only to realize to his horror that it's an authentic corpse.
It probably doesn't surprise anyone that bodies are found on Halloween, and there's hardly a tougher time to investigate because you've got kids from wall to wall. They've all got masks on, good and bad, and really, it's a recipe for disaster.
Detective Booker discovers an alarming clue placed conveniently over the body. Written on a poster board are the words, "Yes, Matthew is dead, but his body not felt. Those brains were not Matt's because his body did melt. For Billy threw Matthew in some hot boiling oil to confuse the police. For the mystery they did toil." He quickly calls for backup.
This is Agent Booker. I got 1144. Requesting backup, over.
When you arrive at a crime scene where there's a body, you have to determine whether this person who is dead because they killed themselves or they accidentally overdosed. Because if that's the case, you can go home and let the coroner take over. But if he was killed by somebody else, that means there's a murderer out there.
Police begin a search of the immediate area, scouring the church grounds for any more clues or accidental evidence the killer may have left behind. What they find are more and more riddles. The next one, found under the mat of the church door, reads, "A quick search inside to find the source of sin, and then near the cemetery to find its victim again." Deciphering the riddle to mean another murder victim could be found in the cemetery or possibly the church's sanctuary, the detectives split up, beginning a wild goose chase for another body.
30 years of movies and TV have inadvertently created a new kind of narcissistic criminal mastermind. The detectives who investigate these kind of crimes tend to lump them into two categories. The first is the eye roll, because these people are never as smart as they think they are. But the second one is the chill down the spine, because if these people think they got away with it the first time, there's going to be a second time.
Police find nothing inside the church, but Detective Booker returns with another riddle from the cemetery. The last clue to end your search: find the altar where Noah's dove would perch. It's an odd clue, and one that leaves everyone of the police force absolutely baffled.
The next thing they've got to do is identify the body, because if the detectives can't make heads or tails of this nice little riddle the killer left, then all they've got is the information Mr. Happy behind the dumpster is going to give them. But they've got to work fast because there's a sick killer out there.
Checking the victim's wallet leads to an identification. The ID belongs to Kurt Flair, a local drug addict and petty theft known to many of the officers at the scene due to prior arrests. But the ID also leaves another clue. The fact that it's there means his killer never had any intention of hiding the identity of his victim. This and the riddles left behind could mean every detective's worst nightmare. It's a random killing. Now they have to hope the toxicology report will come back with new evidence that can help point them in the right direction. In the meantime, Detective Booker takes the riddles in for DNA testing, but the case hits another speed bump when they can't find a matching fingerprint in their database.
The good news is, if this is his first murder, or even his first crime, he's probably not very good at it. And you know how he's learning how to do it? From TV and movies. And cops watch TV and movies too.
Detective Booker's new job just got a whole lot tougher, as he is left to notify Kurt's mother, Karen, of his passing and question her. Karen Flair, sporting a rap sheet that includes prostitution and drug abuse, is no stranger to the Seattle Police Department. And when Booker finds her, she's right in the middle of a bender. The news of Kurt's death barely affects her at all. She says the last time she and Kurt spoke, He had just gotten out of rehab and was swearing he would remain sober. Booker asked her for a list of people who might want to see Kurt dead, but she can't come up with any names.
Consider the world of drug users. They run the gamut from multiple murderers to junkies who wouldn't hurt a fly. And they all have two things in common. Number one, they've seen everything, done everything, been around the block. And number two, none of them will talk to the police.
Coming up short, he turns to the autopsy report to find that Kurt's cause of death was at the hands of a drug called a speedball, an often lethal mix of heroin and cocaine. Across town, police find a solid lead in a drug dealer, Ace Horowitz, who was often seen running in the same circles as Kurt. They quickly bring him in for questioning.
One great thing about drug dealers is if you threaten to charge them with a crime, like accessory to murder, they become very helpful.
According to Ace, Kurt seemingly found religion and sought Ace out to convert him to the faith and save him from his sinful ways. But when Ace wouldn't accept Kurt's help, the two argued and were never to be seen together again. Not having any hard evidence to keep Ace in their custody, he is released. But something about his story strikes Booker as odd. He realized that he never told Ace that Kurt's body was found near a church. But still, Ace told them that Kurt had recently converted to Christianity. Booker quickly realizes his mistake and rallies a group to round him up again. They approach Ace's dilapidated apartment and knocked on the door.
Ace, open up!
Only to find nobody is home. Having probable cause, they quickly burst inside, only to find his apartment empty. A series of riddles hangs above a murder site at a church on Halloween night. When the mother of the deceased claims she hasn't seen her son Kurt in months, police shake down local drug dealer Ace Horowitz. But bad turns to worse when Ace disappears. As officers continue to search for Ace, Detective Booker returns to the scene of the crime one last time to search for more clues. But when he arrives, he finds a group of gawking teenagers waiting outside the crime scene tape, eager to learn what has taken place recently. Showing a little bit of a facial tic, the leader of the group introduces himself as Jeff Torringson, the son of the church's preacher, Pastor Torringson. Thinking that it's possible the kids could know something, Booker explains that the body of Kurt Flair was found on the church grounds 2 nights prior, and that they are still looking for any leads that could help them find his killer. Jeff tells Detective Booker that Kurt was a part of their youth group and that he had not been answering their calls to attend a Christian rock concert with the band Praise. Upon further questioning, Kurt's standing as a newly devoted Jesus freak becomes all the more apparent as Jeff and his friends rattle on about Kurt's persistence in attending every youth group function the church offered. Jeff even claims that Kurt had expressed interest in attending seminary school, and his father, Pastor Torringson, had promised to pay for it. Booker is stunned to discover that some of Ace Horowitz's story is true, which makes his evading of police all the more suspicious.
Now police don't know what to think because the revelation that Kurt was an active church member corroborates Ace's story, and it also explains why Kurt wouldn't be living with his mother, but police still don't know why he left.
To bypass another rant about church camp activities and trivial kumbaya-esque mantras of faith, Detective Booker asks to speak with Jeff's father before he himself is accidentally converted to Christianity.
Thank you guys again. Really appreciate it.
Detective Booker questions Pastor Torrington on Kurt's history with the church and finds a colorful redemption story. Coming from an unsteady home, Kurt drifted from drug fix to drug fix before a series of stints in rehab finally set him straight. Kurt soon found his way to Paul's congregation, became a born-again Christian, and just recently celebrated 9 months of sobriety from both heroin and alcohol. He was welcomed to the church family by most of the parish and even developed a close bond with Paul himself. When Kurt told the pastor about his tumultuous living situation, the preacher let him stay at the church for as long as he needed.
Religious conversions of drug addicts, we hear it every day, and sometimes we're skeptical about them, but this one seemed real. So if that's true and Kurt was clean, why is he laying dead from a speedball overdose? And why is Ace Horowitz in the wind?
After Paul's voluntary interview, Booker informs him of the clues the alleged killer left behind all over the crime scene. But when Booker shows him the riddles, the pastor suddenly turns pale.
There's nothing wrong.
Pastor Torrington explains that he was the one who wrote the riddles, but never intended for them to appear at the scene of a murder.
Now this is a monkey wrench that changes everything.
Paul says that he made the riddles that morning for a Halloween scavenger hunt for the youth group, but because of the holiday, there was a lower turnout than he expected, and the scavenger hunt was to be postponed until the next weekend. He just forgot to take the clues down.
And just like that, all their theories get tossed out of the window. These aren't a series of murderous riddles. These are biblical illusions. There's no genius killer out there. I mean, is there a killer at all? I mean, this could simply be a suicide.
But Detective Booker still has questions to his dissolving mystery that continue to push his investigation in the direction of homicide. He wonders aloud to his partner, if it was a suicide that Ace Horowitz wasn't involved with, why was he running? And since when does a drug addict relapse into a drug as hard as speedball?
Drug use is tricky at best, and seasoned addicts know that if you're going to relapse, you shouldn't dive in too hard and heavy because you might die. Kurt Flair had been a drug user the bulk of his life, so he should have known better, and police wondered, was this overdose accidental?
Then, 2 more clues fall into Detective Booker's lap. After another scan of the murder scene, police find a small baggie with drug residue in the bushes nearby where Kurt's body was found. On the bag is a fingerprint that detectives hope will finally point to a killer. Pastor Torrington also tells police that the day of the scavenger hunt, a small amount of money went missing from the church. Detectives now have a new possible theory. Did Kurt Flair rob the church in order to purchase drugs? And if so, did he purchase them from Ace Horowitz? Police quickly send the drug baggie over to discover just who the mystery fingerprint belongs to. On Halloween, Detective Tyler Booker discovers the body of an ex-drug addict, Kurt Flair, behind a church dumpster. Fortunately, the clues police believed were left by the killer were actually meant for the church's scavenger hunt. Now, Booker's last lead is a mysterious fingerprint left on a drug bag. Police finally corner Ace at a local hangout and bring him in. But as Ace is waiting to be charged, another twist is thrown into the case. The fingerprints on the baggie don't belong to Ace Horowitz. In fact, the prints don't belong to anyone in the database at all.
Okay, picture this. Every cop in the department is figuring the last pieces of the puzzle are fitting in, and this drug dealer is going down. And now it's been several days since they've had a lead of any kind, and this guy, this drug dealer, he might not even be responsible?
But Detective Booker still has one last Hail Mary play up his sleeve. Police know that Ace was selling drugs the week of Kurt's death, and now they know that money went missing from the church the day Kurt died. They assume that somebody from the church purchased the drugs, and they also assume that they purchased those drugs from Ace because of his previous connection with Kurt. Ace knows that he's not getting out of this without some sort of penalty. He begins asking for immunity to being an accessory for murder.
You're gonna have to give me something good.
The detectives bite, convincing him to give his story a new coat of paint. Ace admits to selling drugs the morning of Kurt's death, but he claims he never sold anything to Kurt and hadn't since Kurt converted to Christianity. When asked by detectives why he ran away from police, Ace explained that the only alibi he had the night of Kurt's death was that he paid Kurt's mother, Karen, for sex and was otherwise occupied.
You want to know the truth?
Yes.
I was banging his mom.
Now police are feeling kind of foolish because not only is this guy not the Riddler that they thought he was, when police looked into Ace's alibi, it checked out because he was sleeping with Kurt's mom.
Detectives quickly track down Karen and confirm his alibi, leading them to their next question. Who did you sell drugs to on the morning of Kurt's death? Ace runs through a mental list of his clientele, but every name he gives Booker appears in the police database and isn't a match for the fingerprint on the drug baggie found at the crime scene. Booker presses harder. Finally, Ace recalls a client that day, someone who seemed as though they were a first-time buyer. Ace claims he never got a name from this mystery client, but describes him as an older, short, nerdy teenager with a slight facial tic. Detective Booker is quick to put a name to a face. Jeff Torrington, the pastor's son. Police quickly race over to the church. Booker arrests Jeff Torrington on the charge of homicide. In processing, detectives are able to score a match of Jeff's fingerprints on the drug baggie found at the scene of the crime.
Now things are starting to fit into place. They know who the fingerprints belong to, they've got somebody connected to both Kurt and Ace, and they've got the crime scene. But you can have all the evidence in the world, but you still need motive, and they don't got it.
Jeff admits to purchasing the drugs from Horowitz, but claims he never intended for Kurt to overdose. He says that in recent meetings, he had considered Kurt to become more withdrawn and quiet. He was worried he was on the verge of a relapse. Having learned from his father how to deal and treat drug addicts, Jeff claims he meant to buy a small dosage, not a sandbag, so that Kurt could get an easy fix without fully relapsing.
The idea is not totally unheard of, but there's something not adding up. And police can't help but think that Jeff's being a little disingenuous.
Police press harder, grilling Jeff for hours. If he was only trying to help, why did he steal money from the church instead of paying for the drugs himself? Why did he leave Kurt behind the dumpster under the clues to be discovered by just anyone? With all their leads spent, Detective Booker finally thinks he makes the right connection for motive. And he hits Jeff hard with it. Detective Booker continues to press for information that it was the pastor's son, Jeff Torrington, who made the drug purchase. But in Jeff's interrogation, he claims he just wanted to help ease him through a relapse. But Detective Booker isn't buying it. Booker remembers the one thing that could function as a motive. Jeff's father was planning on paying for Kurt's seminary school. Booker rails on Jeff, pushing him until he finally breaks and admits that he murdered Kurt because he felt as though he was being replaced as his father's only son. The morning of Kurt's murder, Jeff stole money from the church, purchased the speedball from Ace, and then blackmailed Kurt by saying that if he didn't take all the drugs, he would tell everyone that it was Kurt who stole the money.
Take it.
At the church, Jeff points his dad's gun at Kurt and forces him to inhale the speedball. When Kurt overdosed, Jeff moved the body behind the dumpster under his father's scavenger hunt clue, left to make an alibi for himself, and planned to return the following morning to discover Kurt dead and report it to police. With his confession, Jeff Torrington was charged with first-degree murder and charged with 25 years to life in prison.
Jeff fell victim to a number of deadly sins: wrath, pride, but mainly envy. He was jealous of his father's relationship with Kurt. And in the end, he's going to find out that it's difficult serving God while you're also serving life without parole.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Martha has been married to Ron for over a decade.
Look what I got.
They've had their share of rocky patches,
All you talk about is money and you shut up!
but also happy times together. Martha, the nurse, has just finished a long 12-hour shift. It was a slow day. She only saved 3 people's lives. But now, at the end of her day, Martha doesn't realize that her own life is in the gravest danger. For close to 10 years, Martha has been a well-liked and respected nurse at St. Michael's Hospital. The one thing that's missing in her life is love. Someone to complete her. The yin to her yang. Martha, then 33, takes out a personal ad in the hopes of finding Mr. Right.
Fun, loving, looking for a man to share my life with. Been around the block a few times, but I have plenty more miles ahead.
Yeah, me too, Martha.
Ron, a war veteran who works as a building super, answers.
Call.
Hi, is this Martha?
It is.
I saw your ad in the Lustful Love Letters. I'm sorry, it's the first time I've ever done anything on this site.
It's my first time too. What's your name?
This is Ron. I didn't know what to say or what.
Ron is divorced with 1 child, but Martha is smitten, describing the match as an oldie but a goodie.
I spent 25 years in the FBI, and I learned that finding love through a personal ad can be pretty risky. I remember one case where the person who answered the ad was actually, well, a serial killer wanted for 6 murders, and he ate his victims. Like the worst kind of dinner date, really. Luckily, the local authorities got to him before he made it 7.
After a month-long courtship over the phone, Martha and Ron finally meet in person. 6 months later, they're hitched. Their marriage is a match made in heaven. Ron is the love of Martha's life. The happy couple spent all their days together and nights. But over time, Ron retreats from Martha, preferring to spend his time alone with his collection of sports memorabilia. Ron becomes obsessed with money and the value of his collection. Martha's concerned. This is not the man she married, and a far cry from Martha's own upbeat personality. After 7 years, the marriage develops an itch that needs scratching.
Ron's withdrawal from Martha and the world, as well as his growing obsession with his sports collection, were red flags. And it seems like we've got an inner demon situation going on here.
Ron's fixation with money becomes obsessive.
Look what I got. This is the one I've wanted for a long time.
He resents that his wife brings in more money than he does. And Ron becomes paranoid of losing all his belongings.
Ron, dinner's gonna be ready around 6:30. Green beans.
Hands off. It's mine. It's a lot more expensive than this costume jewelry, I'll tell you that.
It's a ball, Ron.
This is the most expensive ball you'll ever have in your hands.
It's a ball.
You just don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. He spends all of his time in the basement, down there with his sports stuff. He's always angry.
Well, when he's angry, what do you mean? Like, is he verbally abusive or?
Yeah.
Martha confides to her close friend Barbara that Ron is chronically angry and always blaming everyone but himself for his problems.
But I do get scared.
She thinks it could have something to do with his time in the military.
I don't know what to do.
It's not uncommon for war veterans, and I've known some, to suffer from depression and anxiety. These days, we have a name for it, PTSD, and it's an ugly thing.
Could Ron's wartime trauma be finally catching up with him? Although he doesn't like to discuss the war, he tells Martha that he saw serious combat when he was in country with special ops.
Serious combat with special ops? Oh, no. The official record states that Ron spent the war tied to a desk. I'd say someone is feeling a little inadequate because he didn't see any action at all.
Things start to look up for Ron when he lands his dream job as manager of Adult Zone, a chain of porno stores in Spokane.
Believe it or not, Ron himself has no interest in porn. He's just reading the articles. Actually, what he's really interested in is the money. He isn't getting rich, but it's a well-paid gig with benefits and stability, and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He's the boss, at least when it came to cleaning up. And that's what Ron really wanted to do, clean up.
Over the following 10 months, as his paranoia and rage continued to grow, his new career at the porno store brings Ron into contact with some nasty characters.
Hey, man. Hey, it's closed. We're closed.
I'm Jerry. I'm here for the job.
Hey, Jerry. I've been expecting you.
Thanks,
huh?
man.
Name's Ron.
One of his employees, Jerry, is a real sleazy dude with a rap sheet a mile long. Jerry also has a mean and expensive appetite for hard drugs. Cocaine, speed, crack, you name it. And he's always broke.
Ron doesn't have a criminal record or anything, but he and Jerry become fast friends. Both are ex-military. Both resent the world and see themselves as victims, though. Ron and Jerry bond over shared grievances, both real and imagined.
The new job only fuels Ron's obsession with money. It lies to Martha about the amounts he's making and stockpiles thousands in the den without her knowledge.
In Ron's collapsing psyche, he's the victim. That's not uncommon. Everybody's out to get him. He's got to defend himself. He's got to prepare for the worst. He's got to prepare for Armageddon.
My honey went into the basement and now he's non-existent. All you talk about is money, Ron. All you talk about is money and you shut up.
Shut up.
Martha's a compassionate person and can take a lot. She's a nurse, after all. But she's starting to worry about her safety.
In the basement trying to secure our future. I don't ever want to come home to this.
Get out, Ron! I can't do it anymore! I want you to leave!
I'll leave!
So at 59 years old, Mr. Porn Shop is forced to move back home with his father. Sure, you can call it a dream life, but things aren't looking up for old Ron.
And then, things go from bad to worse for Ron. Without warning or explanation, he loses his job at Adult Zone. What do you have to do to get fired from a porno store?
Can you come over? I just think we need to talk.
Then Ron finally catches a break. Like an eager puppy begging for a scrap of food, Ron is hopeful that Martha has seen the error of her ways, realized she can't live without him, and wants to patch things back up.
Hi. It's your favorite.
Really? You thought a flower was gonna make up for how you've treated me?
Yeah?
But then Martha drops the bomb.
It's over, Ron. I want a divorce.
A divorce means that Ron will lose half of the house, his share of Martha's pension and benefits, and all the cash he's stashed away in the den.
Ron's not the kind of guy to go down without a fight. He isn't about to sit back and lose half of the house, all of Martha's money, money that, as far as he's concerned, is owed to him. No way, not a chance. He wants revenge.
Lucky for Ron, he knows just the kind of guy who can help him solve his problem.
No, I want her out of the picture. Permanently.
Jerry is desperate for cash to fuel his out-of-control drug addiction and clear his debts. It doesn't take him long to decide.
I'll give you half now, and half later when the job's done.
Deal.
Deal. And don't use the knife.
No knife.
We gotta be creative about this, Jerry.
Acting like they actually know what they're doing, Ron and Jerry weigh the pros and cons of which weapon to use.
How about the drill?
And what, stage a home repair accident?
All right, no drill.
No drill.
Strangle. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Jerry, that's the time my mom gave me.
How about a gun?
Guns are loud, the neighbors are gonna hear, and the hammer. Huh?
A handgun is the better weapon to use for a guaranteed kill, because a hammer can be a messy affair, and messy equals evidence. But a handgun makes an incredibly loud sound unless you have a silencer, and these idiots don't. And 2/3 of all murders in the US are done with a gun. One thing's for sure, though, if you're debating this topic, you're either the police or a cold-blooded maniac.
All the way back, all the way.
After much deliberation, Jerry decides to use a hammer. A silent blow or two to Martha's head should do the trick. To throw off the police, they decide to make it look like a burglary gone sideways. They'll move around some of Ron's sports memorabilia as though that's what the thieves were after. Pure genius.
Flip it. What are you doing?
It's just a ball.
You're just like her.
If the idea is to make the crime look like a robbery for a sports collection, unless you're O.J. Simpson, this is going to be a bit of a stretch.
As soon as you open the door, with the key triggers the alarm. You have 30 seconds to put the code in. 4, 5, 6, number sign. What is it?
4, 5.
Oh, Jesus, Jerry, what comes after 5?
6.
Look, write it down, okay?
Okay.
4, 5, 6.
4.
Numbers.
5.
And then it's probably not a great idea for the robber to have a house key and know how to deactivate the alarm. I mean, how would the perp be able to do that? There doesn't seem to be any logic here at all. Maybe that's just my 25 years in the FBI talking. I don't know.
Martha gets a surprise call at work from Ron.
Hey, it's me. I just want to let you know I'm going to get away for a few days, okay? I'm stressed out. I just need to clear my head.
Okay. Where are you gonna go?
Just up north somewhere, just at a motel. I just want to let you know, okay? Look, I gotta go.
Okay, Ron. What do we have to do?
Ron thinks he's clever, which is wonderful for law enforcement. He calls his soon-to-be ex-wife to establish an alibi. Now he waits in a cheap motel for his degenerate friend Jerry to bludgeon Martha to death with a hammer. Nice couple of guys.
After a 12-hour shift, a hammer to the head should be a death blow. But Martha is one tough cookie.
Did we mention that as a nurse, Martha has self-defense training? Well, she does, and she's got plenty of experience using it. Fearing she's about to die, Martha shows serious smarts and instinct by biting her attacker. Her teeth marks could be used as identification.
Martha isn't about to let her attacker get the best of her. She'll fight to the bitter end if that's what it takes.
Who are you? Who are you? I'm your killer! Who sent you?
The epic fight lasts almost 30 minutes. It's a brutal battle to the death.
Jerry obviously didn't think that little old Martha would be a match for him. He was wrong, dead wrong. She was much more than a match for him.
Martha has turned the tables on the attacker. And killed him with her bare hands. Battered and bloodied, Martha runs to her neighbor and calls the police.
The stress for a paranoiac like Ron is immense. I mean, what could be taking Jerry so long? He should have called hours ago. Ron is most definitely losing his mind at this point, at least what mind he has left.
Detective Maxwell is the investigator assigned to the case. Thanks to Jerry's total lack of intelligence, investigators easily identify him at the scene. That's so Jerry.
After 25 years in the FBI, let me give you a pro tip. Don't bring your wallet to the scene of the crime.
Investigators then discover a note in Martha's house left by Ron.
The note is obviously meant to bolster his alibi, but the investigators were made simply more suspicious. In a case like this, where there's an estranged spouse, they're an automatic suspect. In fact, statistically, almost half of all women who are murdered in America are killed by people they know, usually a current or former boyfriend or spouse.
At approximately 1 p.m., the day after the attack, Martha's friend Barbara gets a call from Ron.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara. It's Ron. I just saw Martha's house on the news. Is everything okay?
You haven't heard? She was attacked.
Oh my gosh. Is she all right?
She's roughed up, but she's okay. Yeah, she's gonna pull through.
Did they know who attacked her? What happened to him?
He's dead.
Oh my God.
Once Ron gets over the shock and awe that Martha survived the attack, he's desperate to track her down. He calls the hospital, but the investigators tell Martha and the staff to conceal her whereabouts and give Ron nothing.
Jerry, you idiot! Jerry!
Four days after the attack, Martha, having recovered remarkably quickly from the injuries inflicted upon her by her attacker Jerry, is released from the hospital.
So we're not making this up. It turns out that in Jerry's backpack was an envelope with a couple of bucks. And oh yeah, he also left a daybook entry with "Call Ron" on it. It's the crucial clue in the case. It connects Jerry directly to Ron. You remember what I said about bringing personal belongings to the crime scene? Honestly, I don't think Jerry could have been any more stupid if he'd tried.
Now the investigators need to locate Ron as soon as possible. They track down his son, Mike, who tells them he's actually been in touch with his father. He then mentioned that he's worried because the last time they were together, Mike discovered a revolver hidden in his father's drawer.
The investigators are up against the clock. Ron is desperate, and he's volatile, and he's paranoid. These are very bad things that, in my experience, make him more than a suspect. He's a high-risk suspect. The investigators convince Ron's son, Mike, to call his father to coax him back to Spokane without revealing that he's wanted for questioning.
Once Ron returns to town, the police take him into custody and question him about his alibi.
What I meant to say is Thursday evening. It was Wednesday. I was there for lunch. During the...
Okay, here's Criminal 101. If you're going to create an alibi, you gotta stick with the one version of what happened. Ron just can't keep his story straight, and it becomes obvious that he's making it up as he's going along. He's lying through his teeth.
Ron repeatedly gets his timeline mixed up, confusing Tuesday for Wednesday, Wednesday for Friday. The discrepancies in his story pose enough grounds for the investigators to arrest him. Ron is charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. Hoping for a lighter sentence, he pleads guilty and avoids a trial. The court gives him 15 years.
Martha's actions are considered justifiable as self-defense, duh, and she isn't charged with killing Jerry.
With Ron behind bars, Martha officially divorces him. She now goes by Martha Smith.
The moral of this story is, don't mess with nurses. They're good people who want to help you. But if you want to kill them, you better be tougher than you think they are, because they'll kick your sorry ass. Oh, and one other thing. If you plan on being a low-life criminal, don't bring your ID to the crime scene, okay? Ever. Not once. Never a good idea.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, a young woman with great potential, connected to 3 men with hidden agendas, and a whodunit high-tech investigation reveals how a half-baked fresh start can lead to getting burnt. Cecilia is a 21-year-old high school dropout. She's had some bad luck in the past, but she's planning a new beginning and has all the right stuff to succeed.
Right?
Yeah.
Judd has been Cecilia's close friend since high school. He knows what she's been through, and through it all, he's been there for her. This new apartment is the fresh start Cecilia needs.
Hi, guys. Hi. I'm Mateo. Nice to meet you. I'm your new neighbor.
Cecilia.
Cecilia, nice to meet you.
That's Judd.
Nice to meet you, Judd. You guys need a hand?
Yes, do you mind?
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Mateo's warm welcome is icing on the cake.
This one. Judd?
Judd? For real?
But then Dylan, Cecilia's ex-boyfriend, makes a surprise appearance.
Get out of here. You get out of here. What the hell's your problem?
He's the reason she needs a fresh start.
You punk! That's what you get. Yo!
What are you doing here?
A long time.
What are you doing here?
What am I?
Cecilia was 16 when she met Dylan, your typical bad boy.
You're supposed to be with me. What the hell are you doing? Cecilia, is this guy bothering you?
No, he's not.
You're bothering me, bro.
Soon, she was hanging out with the wrong crowd, skipping classes, and eventually she dropped out of school.
This is the punk you with now? Is that what's up?
They moved in together, but it was more of a nightmare than a fairy tale.
You need to get out of here.
Who is that anyways?
None of your business.
It's been 5 years since Cecilia made that mistake, and try as she may, it seems to be following her.
At the FBI, we take it very seriously that 1 in 4 women in the United States have been the victim of severe physical violence. Even worse, 1 in 3 women who is a victim of homicide was murdered by her current or former partner.
Dylan, you gotta go.
Let's just have a talk about it.
I'm gonna call the cops, okay?
Call the cops for, girl?
I'm going to call the police. So go! Go! Oh, I'm sorry.
You all right, man?
You okay?
Who was that guy?
Nobody. Honestly.
This is what we call a cycle of abuse. More often than not, women in her situation won't call the police. And usually, that ends badly.
All right, you guys can put that wherever you want.
Despite the fiasco on her first day in her new apartment, Cecilia is still determined to put it all behind her.
Wait, I just want to say thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks
nice
again.
Yeah.
You're wonderful.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
And she has willing help close by from her very friendly new neighbor, Mateo. Which doesn't thrill Judd. In the days that follow, Cecilia settles into her new digs.
Hello? I'm good. How are you?
A fresh start, new neighbors. Things are looking up for Cecilia. Independence suits her well.
I need an ambulance. My friend's been attacked. Hurry!
The worst case scenario is finding a friend or family member has been murdered. I don't wish it on anybody. But if it happens, the most important thing to do is to call 911 and please don't disturb the crime scene.
There's only one way in and one way out of this bathroom, and it's a bottleneck for evidence. Using specialized tools, investigators scour the crime scene, uncovering evidence that is present but invisible to the naked eye.
The best thing you can find at a crime scene is the proverbial smoking gun, but a piece of evidence left behind by the killer that ties them directly to the crime. It's fingerprints, DNA, blood. Those are all crucial.
Jackpot. Detectives note that these prints are barefoot and that the smears appear to be from a cleaning attempt.
Fingerprints have all sorts of unique loops, swirls, and ridges, and they can be used to identify crooks. You know, your feet have the exact same thing. Either way, cops love prints. Detectives find extensive blood spray on both the walls around the tub and on the floor. This tells me she was alive at the time her throat was cut, because the spray is caused by the high pressure of her blood, which isn't there if you're not alive. The body was found partially clothed and placed in the tub. This tells me that there was probably an assault, and likely the killer wanted to humiliate the victim. Every bit of evidence tells a story, and these are adding up. Blood in the hallway, on the counter, in the bathroom, a sloppy murder scene, which means it wasn't planned, and of course, the random hot dog buns. This is all trending towards a crime of passion. What it tells me is that we're looking for a killer that knew Cecilia. Right away, with that information, the playing field of suspects is really gonna narrow.
2 weeks after breaking away from her abusive boyfriend and moving into her own apartment, Cecilia is found murdered in her bathtub. Police know that Cecilia struggled with her attacker. She likely yelled. So they turned to people who live close by.
Were you aware that your neighbor Cecilia was murdered on the 15th?
Oh my God, no.
Oh my God.
You do know Cecilia?
I met her one time when she moved in, the day she moved in.
But when asked if the couple had heard anything like screaming or signs of a struggle,
We were all sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A dead end.
Anybody else that might know her?
Actually, there was
Her
boyfriend. Yeah, her ex-boyfriend Dylan. I think that's what his name. There was the day she moved in. He actually showed up and started arguing with her, and actually punched one of her friends in the stomach.
After hearing about Dylan's altercation with Judd, the detective leaves with both Judd and Dylan on his list of suspects.
That what you wanted? That what you wanted, bro?
Forensic evidence of blood sets the date of the murder as November 13th, sometime between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. And Cecilia's good friend Judd, who called 911, is one of the suspects.
Friend's been attacked. Hurry!
Mateo is also a person of interest because he had access to the victim. But with his history of violence against Cecilia, Dylan is the prime suspect.
How well did you know Cecilia?
That was my girl, man.
We were together for like 4 or 5 years.
Dylan fits the profile and is certainly guilty of a lot.
Where were you on the night of the 15th, between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m.?
I was out with friends. These 2 girls I know from college. Man, you need to stop wasting my time and find the dude who did this.
While police attempt to corroborate Dylan's story, they bring Mateo in for further questioning.
What happened during that altercation on the day she moved in?
This guy's like really violent, aggressive. He's yelling, he's screaming, and he ends up punching Judd in the stomach and runs off.
If you don't mind, we'd like to take your fingerprints.
My fingerprints? Why? I barely knew her. I was in the house once.
With no clear killer emerging, the police also want to hear more details from Judd.
Tell me about the day that you went by Cecilia's house and made the phone call.
I got really worried that she wasn't answering my call. Cease, it's Judd. It's like the 20th message I've left you. Where are you? Give me a call back.
Cease, open up! Cease, it's Judd! Cease?
Why would you break in?
I looked in the window and I saw a mess.
Cease?
I felt in my stomach that she was in trouble and I had no choice. I had to break in.
You hear? Cecilia!
And once I was inside, I walked to the washroom. There she was.
Was she alive when you found her?
No.
You'd find it shocking how often guilty people are trying to defer suspicion by appearing to help police. Yeah, okay, whatever. We got your number. We've seen this before.
Do you know of anybody that would want to harm her?
Dylan. Her ex-boyfriend, Dylan. For sure, he's crazy, that guy. For sure.
There are 3 suspects and a dump truck full of evidence. But between the random buns and the guys in her life, how do investigators make heads or tails of any of this? These 3 guys all had contact with the victim within 4 days of her death. 2 of them had personal relationships with her, while the 3rd lived right beside her. This is a whodunit, and in cases like this, we use the process of elimination. We're not adding suspects, we're eliminating them. Just line up the ducks and eliminate them using facts until there's only one left.
Investigators discover Dylan's alibi is airtight. He was out drinking with 2 college co-eds. He's off the hook. So now they turn to Judd. Investigators have a problem with Judd's story. How does a 165-pound man slip through a tiny window and not disturb anything on the kitchen counter? So they take him back to the scene of the crime in order to corroborate his claims. Judd demonstrates what he did the morning he found the body, and the counter remains untouched. For now, he's no longer a suspect. To complicate matters, police don't find a match to either Dylan or Judd's prints anywhere in the house. Detectives are at a loss with their 2 prime suspects eliminated and time ticking.
If you don't nail down a case in the first 48 hours, the chances of it ever being solved get pretty slim.
But then they catch a break. Forensics find a match to the bloody footprint found at the scene of the crime. It belongs to Mateo.
Now they've placed Mateo at the crime scene. They've caught him in a lie.
I was in the house once.
He has graduated to prime suspect. It's not a lock, but it is definitely time to have a 3rd conversation with the friendly neighbor next door.
Mateo is brought in for another round of questioning.
We found your footprint in the hallway.
Police confront him with the matching footprint evidence. Obviously shaken, he gives detectives a complete flip-flop of his original story.
Okay, look, man. I was with Cecilia the night before she died.
Mateo claims that he and Cecilia have been having a bombshell affair for the past couple of weeks that started right after she moved in.
That night, we had a couple drinks, we made out a little bit, and then I left. I swear I didn't kill her. The next morning, I snuck over to her place to surprise her. Cecilia! Hey, Cecilia!
He had visited for another morning tryst when he found her dead in the tub.
I panicked. There was blood everywhere. So I ran home, scared. Well, I realized I left bloody footprints in the hallway. So I ran back and cleaned them up. I was just scared, but I didn't kill her.
He claims that's how his prints got in the hallway.
So why didn't you report the body?
It's my wife, man. I didn't want my wife to find out about the affair.
One more shoe drops in Mateo's perimeter.
What can you tell me about this?
This is a long time ago, man. I'm a different person.
They found that he has a domestic abuse conviction against him, but it was in another state, which is how it was missed on the routine check.
And this is part of the reason why I didn't call, because I knew I would be a suspect.
Game changer. This is a big deal, because if you've got one conviction for violence against a spouse, you've probably done it a lot before it got bad enough to have your wife turn you in. This guy has a proven violent temper, and he's not afraid to take that out on women.
I swear I didn't kill her.
Police think they're looking at their guy, but they don't have enough conclusive evidence to lay a charge that will stick. They're forced to let him go, but under the order that he's not to leave town.
Instinct is telling me this is the guy. Here's the hitch, and it's a big one. Just because they have his footprint doesn't mean they have him for committing murder. He hardly knew her. Why would he kill her? This guy could skate on reasonable doubt. This one footprint only places him at the scene of the crime. They need to place him in that bathroom at the time of the crime.
The detective combs over the evidence again, but this time with nothing but Mateo as their prime suspect. While reassessing crime scene photos, he notices something odd about one of the hot dog buns. It looks like half of the bun has been squashed down, unlike the other buns. The bun is rock-hard stale, and when detectives dust the squashed half of bun number 3, a very clear partial footprint reveals itself.
This is where the investigation goes from pretty weird to totally bizarre. The bun is now rock hard. You know how they get after a few days. In order to have made a clear footprint, the perpetrator would have had to have stepped on the bun when it was perfectly fresh and soft. That means the owner of the footprint on the bun was in the bathroom when the buns got dumped out from their bag during the crime. That person stepped on bun number 3, leaving behind their footprint. Signed, sealed, delivered. Scene of the crime, time of the crime. All that has to be done now is find whomever belongs to that footprint, and they are baked.
The detective uses 3D scan overlay technology on Mateo's footprint and the bun print to establish if they are in fact identical.
These guys have a slam dunk with this evidence. Really, this is all over except for the whining.
Mateo, we have your footprint that places you in the bathroom at the time of her death. We have a search warrant to search the rest of your house.
All I did was knock on her door. Baby, I'm sorry.
How could you?
Police put together the evidence and determined that on the evening of November 13th, Mateo went to Cecilia's house after his wife, Carolyn, had gone to bed.
Hey, girl.
We need to talk.
Talk about what?
This needs to stop.
He made a pass at her, but Cecilia wanted nothing to do with him.
You have a wife, you have kids, you need to leave me alone.
Here's a guy who just couldn't handle being rejected. Big man. and in his mind, she disrespected him. This enraged Mateo so much that he attacked her. To most of us, that's senseless, but in his mind, it makes perfect sense. He's the man, he's in charge, right? No, wrong.
Oh no.
Mateo dragged Cecilia to the bathroom, where he slit her throat with scissors. Then, he placed her in the bathtub and ran the water, washing away any DNA evidence.
And the hot dog buns. This is a weird one, but follow me on it. Killer needed to get rid of the bloody scissors. So he leaves them in the bathroom, he goes to the kitchen and grabs the first plastic bag he saw so he doesn't leave a trail of blood. This bag held hot dog buns. He brought them back to the bathroom, bagged his evidence so he could get it out of the house. And that's how the blood got on the counter, and that's how the buns got onto the floor.
Mateo, you were under arrest for the murder of Cecilia, your neighbor.
All I did was knock on the door.
Mateo is charged with first-degree murder of Cecilia and sentenced to life without parole.
This kind of murder always makes me wonder who is a killer and who isn't. I mean, on the surface, with a 9-year relationship and 2 kids, you'd assume this guy would have developed better impulse control. But no, never assume anything. We're fortunate that this time, that this guy left behind the smoking bun.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised.
Nope.
On this episode of Bizarre Murders, when a lonely heart thinks she's found the man of her dreams, she launches into a whirlwind romance.
I don't like him and I don't trust him.
But will he make her heart skip
Oh my God, yes.
or just stop beating?
Send an ambulance right away. My wife's unconscious.
Joan, the manager of a prestigious local architecture firm, has everything she ever wanted when it comes to her career.
Nope. No.
But after 2 failed marriages, this 45-year-old finds herself back in the dating pool, and the water is cold.
Too into himself.
When you're a woman over 40, unfortunately, most of your dating options are less Fabio and more Flabio. This leaves many successful women with their beds empty and their bank accounts full. Targets for attractive young liars, scammers, or worse. It just isn't fair.
Just when Joan's given up on finding love again, the man of her dreams walks in to her office.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Clay.
Joan. Come in.
Clay, a chiseled-jawed architect who's just turned 32, is starting his first day at Joan's firm.
So, how are you settling in?
Oh, it's great, yeah.
Good.
Everyone's been really welcoming and, you know, figuring my way around.
Good.
Yeah.
From the moment their eyes meet, there are sparks.
Stop by anytime. My door is always open to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
To Joan, Clay seems like the man she's been searching for her entire life. Not only is he handsome, but he's charming, funny, and has a great job.
You might want to tell your wife that you're going to be working long hours.
I'm single.
Oh, okay, so great.
But with 13 years age difference between them, Joan's certain Clay would never be attracted to her.
But Joan's wrong. Clay's interested in her, very interested. The question is it for the right reasons?
When Clay makes his desires known, Joan is more than receptive. Before long, the couple is inseparable.
This is the first time in her life that Joan feels really loved in every possible way. In a few short months, she's gone from giving up on relationships to living the life of a romance novel heroine, and she's eating it up.
So he's from the Midwest, and where was he before he was at your firm?
I'm not sure. We just haven't made that far in the conversations. But I can tell he's really good guy.
And how can you tell?
Not everyone is happy about the relationship, though, including Joan's best friend, Lena.
This is moving way too fast. Why don't you just slow down, make sure that it's really right this time?
It's fine.
You've heard people talk about beer goggles, but I've seen plenty of love goggles. Smart people, but they're so wrapped up in their romantic fantasies that they ignore the basic lessons we were taught as kids, like don't trust people until you've gotten to know them. How does that Elvis song go? Only fools rush in.
That was just a truly wonderful night.
Let me get a look at you again. You really are the most beautiful woman I've ever laid my eyes on.
I bet you say that to all the...
Despite Lena's reservations, Joan is determined to live her real-life romance novel. And in 3 months, she moves on to the next chapter.
Will you marry me?
Of course, yes, yes.
2 months later, the couple is married in a small ceremony attended by their closest friends. But a dark cloud appears over Joan's sunny new life when she notices money disappearing from her bank account. There's only 2 people who have access to that account, her and her brand new husband, Clay.
What is this? These are my accounts.
Joan, I can explain this.
Yeah, you better.
Clay confesses to taking the money.
I'm paying child support.
What?
But says he only did it to support his 2 children from his 2 previous marriages.
I've made some bad decisions in my past, but that's what it is. It's the past. Joan, I love you. You're the one I want to be with.
Joan forgives Clay, and he swears to never betray her trust again.
I've lost count of how many times at the FBI we'd see kind, generous, beautiful women desperate for attention being swept away by boy toys who take them for everything they've got. I mean, if it's too good to be true, it is. In my experience, no matter how much these guys swear you can trust them, the situation almost always ends in tears. If you're lucky.
You are his wife now. Don't you think your entire relationship being based on a lie is a little bit of a problem? I don't like him, and I don't trust him, and I don't know what you don't get about that.
Not everyone is as forgiving as Joan.
You can't trust the guy. He lied to you.
When Lena hears what Clay's been up to, she seizes on it as proof he's a bad guy.
You don't know him like I know him.
Life soon returns to normal. Until... Almost a year to the day of her wedding, Joan is struck with a sudden mysterious illness that leaves her throwing up with bloody diarrhea and gasping for breath. By the time Clay races her to the hospital, her organs are already failing.
How are you, Joan? You feeling okay?
Clay stays by his wife's side as puzzled doctors run a battery of tests, trying to determine what's happened to the normally vibrant Joan.
Do you think you could just give us a few minutes?
Joan's close confidant, Lena, requests a moment alone with her friend.
I just need to see my friend alone for a few minutes. I'm sure you can understand that.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Clay is hesitant,
It'll be fine.
but finally agrees, telling Joan he'll be right outside.
Why is Clay acting so strange? What is going on with him?
Within minutes, Clay gets antsy and decides it's time to resume his place at his wife's side.
One of the signs that Mr. Wonderful might be a problem is that he needs total control over you.
I think Joan needs some rest now, so you should go.
Guys like Clay rely on having absolute influence over the woman they're latched onto. If you're an outsider who isn't buying into his charm and worshiping at the altar of his ego, then you're gone.
With Lena ousted, Clay resumes his vigil at his wife's bedside.
Joan?
Until minutes later, her vital signs crash.
Help! Help! Somebody! Help my wife!
Joan may have wanted to live a romance novel, but now her story's taking an unexpected twist.
Is she breathing? What's going on? Help!
Doctors inform Clay that Joan has suffered a stroke.
Joan! Joan, come on. Help her! Please, Joan!
Her organs are already failing.
Tell me what's going on!
They warn him to prepare for the worst. But by a medical miracle, they eventually manage to stabilize his wife. When hospital staff double-check Joan's IV, they find the bank of fluids that was previously clear is now cloudy. That can only mean one thing. Someone's tampered with it.
To tamper with an IV bag at a hospital, that's ballsy. You have to undo the line, use a syringe to tamper with the contents, then put everything back in place all in a couple minutes. That's almost impossible for somebody without medical experience.
Doctors run another battery of tests on Joan. When the results come back, they show something much more serious than IV tampering. She's been poisoned with lidocaine, an everyday medication that in high doses can become deadly.
Lidocaine is best known as a key ingredient in hemorrhoid cream, so it can get rid of a pain in the ass. I wonder who sees Joan as a pain in the ass.
Having discovered that Joan's been poisoned on their watch, doctors must treat this situation as an attempted murder.
Meet you. I'm Detective Weber.
Most of the time when there's an attempt on a woman's life, you'll find that her spouse is behind it. So in a situation like this, we're looking straight at, you guessed it, Mr. Wonderful, Clay. And unlike Joan, we're not focused on his pecs.
But Clay's not the only one who has access to Joan.
You've got doctors, nurses, orderlies, candy stripers. Even Lena has to be considered a suspect as she was alone with Joan. You've heard everybody's a suspect, but it's true. Police work is based on thorough investigations, not on hunches and assumptions. We leave those to psychics and armchair detectives. And let me tell you, our solve rate is much, much higher than theirs.
I'm wondering if either of you have seen anybody other than hospital staff in this room.
No.
No one.
With no hard evidence to narrow the pool of suspects, and with Joan saying she wants to forget the whole incident, Detective Hannah Weber is forced to drop her investigation before it's even begun.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
When Joan is eventually released from the hospital, Clay attends to her every need. And once Joan's back at work,
Hey, babe.
Clay, ever the doting husband, only becomes more protective.
Oh yeah, Clay's right in there protecting Joan from her friends, her coworkers, the police, anyone who could challenge her rose-colored view of him. Thank God for Clay.
Just when Joan is finally getting back to her old routine, she lands in another hospital with the same old symptoms: vomiting, bloody diarrhea, and difficulty breathing. Once again, Clay runs to her side. Once again, her IV turns cloudy. And once again, doctors discover that she has been poisoned with lidocaine.
Well, that narrows the suspect pool because one hospital could have a homicidal staff member going around poisoning patients. I mean, it happens, but it's rare. 2 hospitals with would-be killers trying to murder the same patient with the same poison, that only happens in movies, the really bad ones.
When hospital staff get in touch with Detective Weber, she knows what she has to do.
I'm going to need you to step out of the room.
Detective Weber bans everyone but essential staff from the room.
You too, ma'am.
And posts officers to stand guard over Joan. Detective Weber interviews Joan alone so she can speak freely.
How are you feeling?
But Joan refuses to cooperate with the investigation.
Do you know if your husband has been in this room the entire time?
My husband has nothing to do with this.
So Joan is clearly still drinking Clay's Kool-Aid. The investigators would be better off talking to Lena. She's not buying what Clay is selling.
With the investigation once again stalled, Lena decides it's time to take matters into her own hands. Late one night, she sneaks into Clay's office. Lena discovers a series of life insurance policies, all taken out on Joan, with her husband Clay as the sole beneficiary.
Come on, is anybody really surprised by this? I didn't think so.
Certain she's found the proof she needs to expose Clay, Lena again confronts Joan, life insurance policies in hand. Joan is hesitant, but agrees to speak with Clay about the policies that night.
Clay? Can you come here a minute?
What is it?
What are these?
They're insurance policies.
When Joan questions her husband about the policies, he claims he has to protect himself and his children in case anything ever happens to her.
Protect them from what? His cash cow drying up? This guy is a real piece of work.
Honey, you haven't been well. What if something happened? I mean, this is what couples do. You've been talking to Lena, haven't you?
The real problem, Clay says, is Lena snooping through his office.
She's got it in for me.
She doesn't have it in for you.
Yes, she does.
No, she doesn't.
I've sensed it from day one. She's coming between us.
You know, the only thing creepier than trying to control who your wife spends time with,
I don't think you should see her anymore,
is doing that same thing while your hands are around her neck.
We talked about it, and he explained everything to me.
The next day, when Lena asks how Clay reacted to the life insurance policies, Joan turns the situation around.
You know what? I've had enough.
Yeah, me too.
I've had enough of you. Get out. I'm over this. Get out.
By this point, it's obvious to everyone, except Joan, that Clay has it out for her. But she's determined to follow her heart, even if it kills her.
Joan? 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 Joan, are you all right? Joan? Joan? Send an ambulance right away. My wife's unconscious. Joan? Joan? Joan, stay with me.
Joan arrives at the hospital not breathing and with no pulse. Despite their best efforts, doctors are unable to pull off yet another miracle. Within minutes of her arrival, Joan is pronounced dead.
When Joan's fantasy romance takes a deadly turn, Detective Weber's determined to smoke out the killer.
Hi, yeah, it's Detective Weber.
She immediately orders an autopsy. When the results come in, they reveal Joan's cause of death as nicotine poisoning.
Okay, something's not right here. Something's bizarre. You've got a non-smoker who's turned up dead from nicotine poison. In all my years with the FBI, I've never seen anything like it.
The investigation gets more bizarre when the coroner finds an unexplained mark behind her ear.
So, Clay.
Detective Weber interviews prime suspect Clay.
She'd mentioned earlier that day that she had some chest pains, but
he denies having anything to do with Joan's death.
I called 911 and, well, you know the rest.
He claims the couple had simply enjoyed a quiet evening at home, then headed to bed together.
Did Joan have any enemies who may have wanted to kill her?
He suggests that Weber speak with Lena, the only person Joan fought with recently.
I heard you had a fight with Joan about Clay.
We had several fights.
Detective Weber interviews Joan's friend,
He was awful to her. He let her dry financially.
only to have her point the finger back at Clay as the one with the real motive to kill Joan. Unable to establish when Joan was poisoned, there's nothing more Detective Weber can do. And once again, the case goes cold.
Lena's devastated by Joan's death. Maybe not surprised, but she's devastated. Clay? Not so much. In a matter of weeks, he sells her house and skips town.
Clay moves to Los Angeles, California, where he gets a job as a graphic designer, remarries, and has a child. But one person refuses to move on, Detective Weber.
Here's my investigative rule. You can have a hunch, but you have to let it die a natural death if evidence changes it. In this case, the only person who had real access to Joan the night of the murder was her husband, Clay. There's been an incredible advance in technology in the last decade or so, and maybe there was enough to get the evidence to make this theory stick.
Detective Weber sends out the evidence to one of the nation's leading nicotine experts. A key piece of new evidence is uncovered using methods that weren't available 7 years earlier.
The issue with this case has always been that law enforcement couldn't or didn't establish a timeline for the poisoning. Well, we finally got one, and that's all they need to nail that guy.
Have a seat.
Thanks. Thanks for seeing me again.
No problem.
I'm here because we got the toxicology report back on your wife's death, and I have a couple questions based on the results.
Toxicology report.
Clay still claims that he and Joan spent the evening together, then went to bed. When Detective Weber asks whether anyone else came by the house that night, Clay confirms that there was more than a 6-hour period where the couple was alone before Joan died.
Bam! Clay may not know it, but he just gave himself up. You see, the nicotine expert gave a timeline. It says the poison was administered 30 minutes before Joan's death, and Clay's just said he was the only one with her at that time. See ya, Clay.
Clay's statement and the medical expert's timeline can only mean one thing. After Joan went to bed that fateful night, her husband stayed up and prepared a lethal concoction by meticulously emptying out an entire pack of cigarettes and emulsifying the dried tobacco into a liquid substance.
As for how he administered it, do you remember that unexplained mark behind Joan's ear? When Joan was at her most vulnerable, her supposed dream man gave her a deadly shot of nicotine and then climbed into bed and waited for her to die. That amount of nicotine doesn't sound like a lot, but for a non-smoker like Joan, one pack would do the trick.
To ensure his plan worked this time, Clay waited until Joan was too far gone to be saved before calling 911 and performing CPR.
He thought acting like the perfect husband would throw police off his trail, but we know that trick.
Send an ambulance right away.
Just because someone helps the victim doesn't mean we stop looking at them. I mean, if anything, we look harder since they all had the access needed to kill. Why do they keep thinking they're smarter than the police?
When investigators looked into Clay's past, they discovered he didn't just lie about murdering his wife, but about everything, including his degree in architecture.
Will you marry me?
Of course, yes.
The whole dream relationship had been fake too. Clay hadn't fallen for Joan, just her bank account. When her cash started to dry up, Clay took his plan to the next level.
As soon as Joan was worth more to Clay dead than alive, he rewrote her story. going from a sexy romance to a murder mystery.
After twice failing to kill Joan with lidocaine, Clay changed the drug of his choice to nicotine and discovered that when it came to killing Joan, third time's the charm. Certain he got off scot-free, Clay cashed in Joan's life insurance, quit his job, and left town, rich and ready to start over. As for Lena, she was right about everything to do with Clay and had only been trying to save her friend from the clutches of a dangerous charlatan.
Here's a strange thing about human nature that you see specifically in this case. Despite continued overwhelming evidence that Clay was using and abusing her, Joan just couldn't or wouldn't see it. She wanted so badly to be a romance novel heroine that she bought into the wrong man. You know what he bought? He bought an insurance policy on her life.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, the strange things that lurk in the hearts of men and in internet chat rooms. When fantasies jump off the keyboard and into reality, you might just end up with the bizarrest murder of them all.
Don't you look delicious?
Once upon a time, in a farmhouse set in a beautiful valley of rolling hills, there lived a seemingly normal salesman. 42-year-old Gunter is a bachelor who resides in his childhood home alone. And from not having a partner, something else is missing from his life, a void that needs to be filled.
You see, Gunter dreams of eating people, actually ingesting them. This isn't a make-believe zombie fetish. He is an aspiring cannibal. It's a fantasy that began during his childhood.
I ask myself the same question, Gudrun, every day, and every day I come back to your home. I come back to you because of the boy, but that is not the boy I want.
Raised by a distant father and a verbally abusive mother, Gunter's household is chaotic to say the least. Nobody knows for sure what sets Gunter on the twisted path he takes from child to adulthood. Maybe it's his father walking out on him when he was only 5 years old.
Gunter grows up terrified of being abandoned. In his dreams, he has someone he loves and who loves him, a little brother, and they will never be apart because Gunter will eat him, ingest him. It's a sick take on togetherness, but Gunter takes it as kind of like snuggling. You want to snuggle with that guy?
Gunter doesn't get much affection at home. Bitter and angry, his mother treats her child as a servant and as an emotional punching bag.
The problem when somebody feels that they have no value is that they just can't go on living this way. A person needs dignity and self-respect.
As an adult, Gunter joins the army.
To the world, Gunter presents himself as friendly and charming while concealing a dark fantasy life. In the business, we call this a mask of sanity. For some people, acting normal is just that, an act. It's why people are so shocked when the quiet guy down the street who keeps to himself turns out to have a dozen skeletons in his closet. It's not an analogy, a dozen real skeletons.
Maybe it's the discipline of military life that keeps him on an even keel. Maybe being away from mom eases the pressure. Or maybe it's losing himself in drink. For that whole time, his fantasies continue, but he doesn't act on them. But it's harder to keep being a drunk under your hat. A couple of DUI car wrecks cost Gunter his military career and sends him crawling back to, you guessed it, Mommy's house.
Willkommen, Liebling.
It seems that this is a turning point for our boy Gunter. Up until now, he's been just a geeky loner weirdo. Every town's got a few of them. But he found a place for himself in the army. Getting booted, though, and ending up back at home where he started seemed to twist something deep inside of him.
Home, single, trapped with his abusive mother in an old house in a tiny village. His military career a failure, Gunter reinvents himself as a salesman. By day, selling surgical tools. By night, trolling the internet. And then, one fine day, Gunter gets a bit of luck.
This is the second turning point. With mom out of the picture, Gunter is alone in a big house in a tiny village. He makes his mom's room into a shrine, like you do, and spends his empty nights searching chat rooms for people whose fantasies match his own. Now, with no one looking over his shoulder, there's nothing stopping him from making those weird fantasies come true.
In the darkest corners of the internet, Gunter finds what he's been looking for: hookup and cook-up, a chat room in which people share their fantasies of eating human flesh or being consumed by a ravenous stranger. Gunter's dreams come true when someone calling himself Morsel replies that he's been looking for someone who wants to eat him up.
They don't just share fantasies, they talk like they're the real deal. They said things like, I dreamed that someone will eat me up, or come to my house and I'll do it. Charming, huh?
In the cannibal chat room world, Gunter becomes a star. His fantasies are compelling, and the murderous tableau he creates are tantalizingly real.
When you start lifting rocks on the internet, what crawls out can take your breath away, sometimes literally. There are boatloads of would-be cannibals out there and whole rafts of sick people who say they'd love to be eaten.
But not everything you order online is actually the merchandise you would hope for.
Luckily for the posers and role players Gunter lures into his home.
No.
He's no Hannibal Lecter. He only wants to dine on someone who's into it too and wants to be eaten.
It takes a while to winnow through the wannabes before Gunter finds the possible meal he's been looking for. If you're imagining a person with dark, hidden desires, Dieter might be the very last person you'd suspect. He's got a great job as a forensic accountant. He's in what looks like a happy, committed relationship.
I'll join you soon. I have to finish some work.
But behind those dreamy blue eyes, Dieter yearns for something. He yearns to be overpowered, absorbed, erased. He goes to the same chat rooms Gunter haunts, but his goal is not to be a cannibal. Dieter believes that his one purpose in life is to be treated like a beast, slaughtered, and eaten for his meat. I'm not making this up.
I want you to admire your dinner.
A romantic candlelight dinner is even more special when the person you are toasting is also the main course.
Are we going to dinner, or are you my dinner?
I have a plate all ready for you.
It used to be only the shadow who knew what evil lurked in the hearts of men. These days, it's anybody with a Wi-Fi connection, but crawling into those holes can be very disturbing. So be careful where you go and what you look for.
Have you slaughtered a man before?
No, only in my dreams.
Weird behaviors are frequently just normal ones taken to a bizarre extreme. Dieter wants to bring pleasure and to be close to someone. That's normal. He thinks the way to do that is to offer himself up as a meal. That's as far from normal as you can get.
Gunter and Dieter make a plan to turn their fantasy into a reality. Gunter has no clue how to go about slaughtering a human being, but he sets out to create the scenario he's got in his head, starting with a place to deal with Dieter's body.
Gunther.
Well, hello. Don't you look delicious?
My. Yeah, Gunther. What impressive teeth you have.
So now we're getting to the point where people usually say, hey, let's talk about our fantasies, fool around, and then watch a movie. If your partner is too enthusiastic, you say your safe word and bail out. At least that's what I've heard. But Dieter makes things very clear.
Dieter, I wanted you to admire your dinner.
He wants to be eaten, and it's dinner time now.
I just don't think this is working. I didn't want to be awake for this part.
I don't want to get too personal here, but some people can be very particular about their fantasies. Dieter had envisioned things going a little differently. For one thing, he'd figured on better anesthetic than cheap scissor and schnapps. Life's full of disappointments.
Drink some more.
Painkillers or no, Dieter is determined, and the disappointment of returning home uneaten is more than he can bear.
All right. You ready? I'm ready.
Dieter's biggest fantasy is that his cannibal lover will start by sinking his teeth into his private parts.
Oh my God.
Well, this is something you shouldn't try at home, or anywhere else for that matter. It's tough, apparently, and very, very sensitive.
Oh my God!
I'm sorry, Dieter. It's tougher than I thought.
I don't care how much schnapps or magic nighty-nighty cold gloop you've got in your system. The pain must be unimaginable. But obsessions have their own power, and Dieter is desperate to be consumed, to be erased.
Even though Dieter is becoming faint from all the bleeding,
Taste yourself. Taste.
Gunther doesn't want their dream date to end so soon. He's eager to please his dinner companion.
Maybe we need to cook it, yes? Little butter, some garlic.
Even now, even mutilated, Dieter could have survived. But he makes Gunther promise not to call an ambulance. That, my friends, is commitment.
What's wrong?
You're not much of a cook.
Gunther and Dieter's cannibal picnic has surprisingly turned into a painful bloodbath. But both of them are determined to make their fantasies come true.
Though despite being determined, both are amateurs.
It turns out that being emasculated by a clueless cannibal wannabe is not a ticket to a painless death nor a quick death. Who knew? Morning finds Dieter still alive, but he's too weak to participate anymore in his self-slaughter. He makes Gunther promise not to wimp out and call an ambulance.
Gunther. I don't think it will be long now. Thank you. Good night, dear teacher. Bon appetit.
His fantasy now satisfied, Gunther savors every moment of the experience of taking Dieter apart, wrapping up the meat, and stowing him in the freezer. It's a telltale sign of serial killers that their murders become a kind of ceremony or a ritual.
Out of respect for Dieter, he lays out his best china and opens his finest Brunello.
Prost, dear Dieter. You are as delicious as you were handsome.
It's not that no one was looking for Dieter or that they didn't care. His partner missed him terribly and called in the police when he didn't return from the conference he was supposedly attending.
Dieter did a good job of covering his tracks. He's wiped his hard drive. He paid cash for his train ticket. It was his heart's desire to just vanish, and that's what he's done. As for Gunther, no one suspects him of anything. Dieter was a stranger. If Gunther keeps his head low, nothing's gonna stop him from killing again.
While Dieter's lover searches in vain, Gunther slowly works his way through his freezer load of Dieter steaks and schnitzels. He gets through about a pound a week. It's only a few months before Gunther starts feeling the need for some variety in his diet. He tells his hookup and cook-up chat room pals that now he's a real cannibal. He uses the details of what he did to Dieter to impress prospective entrees.
Now, Gunther has made what polite people like you and me call bad choices. Going online, talking about eating people, not the best choice. Actually eating somebody, very bad choice. Bragging online about eating people, that's how you attract attention for sure. Maybe more attention than you want.
In the chat rooms he haunts, Gunther meets a lot of thrill-seeking posers who type a good game, but they ghost him when he offers the chance to actually be turned into a blue plate special.
Sadly for Gunther, his search is looking fruitless until he gets a bite that seems too good to be true.
Felix is a 25-year-old law student living in Austria.
After some chatting, Felix seems to be exactly what Gunter's been looking for. He's young, he's slender and fit. Gunter is drooling with desire.
Hello, Felix. I would love to make a tasty meal of your delicious flesh. I can prove it to you.
Gunter sends details to prove that he's ready to take Felix from farm to table, in comfort and style.
Gunter's dreams have focused on tender young things. Could his second conquest be even more exciting than the first?
Gunter's hot on the trail of a 25-year-old Austrian law student whom he thinks will be more tender than the tough meat he got from Dieter.
There's only one problem. Felix is not interested in actually being made into bratwurst. He's just playing a weird game. And once he coaxes enough out of Gunter to convince himself he's really chatting with a killer cannibal, he calls the cops. Gunter's given enough away in his chats for the police to figure out who he is.
The investigators can't tell for sure if the graphic images Gunter's posted online are real or just skillful amateur horror filmmaking.
Come in.
As for Gunter, he's confident he's done nothing wrong.
Please have a seat.
What is this?
Farm pig. A little gamey, but sehr good. Have some.
The detective takes the frozen remains and has them tested in a lab. But most incriminating is the 6 hours of gruesome video documenting the bloody dinner party that Gunter and Dieter had the night the butchery began. The meat is human. Dieter is identified. The secret world of cannibals who find their prey online is both shocking and horrifying to the public.
Gunter is found guilty of murder and is currently serving a life sentence without possibility of parole. He says there's lots of would-be cannibals in the world, and he advises them to find a better hobby: coaching soccer, building model boats, train spotting. Oh, and one more thing. Gunter's a vegetarian now. He never eats anything that can talk back. I'm just glad I wasn't the detective who had to investigate this.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Donna and her daughter Shayna have lived a life of hardship. Shayna's illnesses have left her wheelchair-bound, and her mother has sacrificed everything to help her. But when Donna encounters evil at the hands of a stranger, and her daughter goes missing, police race against time to save them and uncover a hidden secret. In a quiet, small town, Lana is concerned about her neighbors, 46-year-old Donna, and her severely handicapped teenage daughter, Shayna. Lana is worried because bizarre messages were posted on Donna's social media page earlier that day.
From an investigator's point of view, you want to pay attention to the difference in tone from the previous posts. Does it sound like a sweet, loving single mother who has selflessly raised her sickly, handicapped daughter? Or does it sound more like the writings of a deranged killer? My vote is for number 2.
Lana drops by to see what's going on. The house looks like it's been ransacked. Now, very worried about her neighbors, she calls the police. When no one answers the door, police enter the house.
Donna? Shayna?
He makes a horrific discovery. It appears that Donna has been bludgeoned to death.
Hey, dispatch, we've got a dead body here. No murder weapon at this time. No signs of forced entry. Send backup.
When you don't see any evidence of forced entry, you can often conclude that the victim knew their killer. It happens more often than we'd like to think. An unsuspecting person opens the door to their trusted friend or relative, and the murderer waltzes right in. Game over.
Police do a sweep of the entire house. The good news? The killer is gone. The bad news? So is Shayna. Shayna is confined to a wheelchair and can only travel with her mother's assistance. Everything points to a kidnapping.
Imagine the situation the police have on their hands. It stands to reason that the killer has taken Shayna. So somewhere out there, there's a severely disabled teenager whose chances of survival are slim. During my time with the FBI, I learned the hard way that if you don't find the victim of an abduction within the first 48 hours, it gets pretty grim, and it gets that way fast. There's a ticking clock, and it started hours ago.
Police interview Donna's neighbor, Lana. She tells them that Shayna has been having a romance with a man she met online.
He's really cool. He's really, really cute. He makes me laugh. He's so funny. Does your mom know? No. Oh my God, she'd kill me.
His name is Robbie, and he's a 32-year-old resident of Utah.
Now we're getting somewhere. Whenever you've got a missing woman, the first place you look is her husband or boyfriend. 85% of the time, if they haven't done the deed themselves, then they've masterminded it. And I use the term mastermind kind of lightly.
Using Robbie's social media account, where he has helpfully posted his address, the police are able to track him down to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Really? Posting your address on your social media account? Oh, come on. That has to take the cake for one of the stupidest things anyone can do, much less a potential criminal who police are looking for.
They've come prepared for a violent confrontation with a suspected brutal killer.
Sorry, I was just in the bathroom. Come in.
Who's there?
Instead of finding a sickly, disabled Shayna, possibly tied and bound,
Shayna?
The police find an able-bodied, healthy young woman.
Shayna is obviously not kidnapped, nor is she disabled. Someone's got some serious explaining to do.
Shayna and Robbie admit they've been having a secret long-distance love affair.
The investigation has taken a bizarre and completely unexpected turn. So now the investigators have to switch lanes, throw their original assumptions out the window, and follow the breadcrumbs. And in this case, it's not a straight line.
Shayna, I've got to tell you, your mother's dead.
What?
She was murdered.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
I
What?
know it's hard, but I have to ask you if you know anything.
Shayna claims to have no idea who would want to hurt her mother. Everyone loved her.
Shayna, I was under the impression that you were sick, even in a wheelchair.
Shayna tells an astonishing tale. For her whole life, she has been forced by her mother to pretend to be an invalid.
Shayna.
Mom, I feel fine.
She had none of the medical problems or illnesses Donna claimed she had. Even her age had been a lie. Most people thought Shayna was 18. In reality, she's 26.
Mother-daughter relationships are complicated at the best of times, but this takes it to a whole new level. You've got a mother who has somehow made her daughter believe all of her life that she's been sick. And you thought your mom was tough on you?
It's pretty much the wackiest case this cop has ever heard. Was Shayna truly a victim or a willing accomplice?
Sometimes criminals hide in plain sight, which can make them even more difficult to catch, and this is especially true of fraudsters like Donna. They fit seamlessly into society, and if you show them a vulnerability, they'll play you.
Who was Donna? And how did she get away with this brazen fraud for so long? Born and raised in Texas, Donna grew up with an abusive father. She had Shayna when she was only 21 years old and worked as an office cleaner to make ends meet. When Hurricane Ike hits and she loses everything, she packs up and moves north to Cheyenne, Wyoming for a fresh start.
I've been taking care of her all her life. I'm her mother, and I know what's best. She needs the surgery.
From the moment she was born, Donna claimed her daughter suffered from numerous ailments.
She's sick.
They travel from clinic to clinic, with Donna browbeating medical experts to provide the diagnosis she wants for Shayna. If one doctor doubts her claims or produces negative test results,
I'm gonna get a second opinion.
she simply goes to another. Shayna endures many unnecessary surgeries and even has a feeding tube inserted into her stomach. This allows Donna ultimate control. She can monitor what Shayna eats and can administer whatever drug she wants her to take.
Shayna, look at the beautiful colors in this book. Oh, what a cute little bird. My goodness. He seems to be quite happy to be there, too. Oh, look at these.
Donna treats Shayna as though she's many years younger than she really is.
Sweetheart.
I like his shirt.
She withdraws her from school, telling everyone she is stuck with the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. By the time she's a young teen, Shayna doesn't even know her true age.
Sweetheart.
I'm not feeling well. I think I might need my pills.
Of course, sweetheart, of course.
Shayna is, in effect, brainwashed to believe she's an incurable invalid. So the next time you think you've got problems with your own mother, think again.
Here's your check.
The public eats up the story of a single mom with a severely disabled daughter.
I'd just like to thank him. It's been such a difficult time for me, us, and we really appreciate all the love that has gone into assisting Shayna. Being a single mom is hard, but with all the help from everyone, we really appreciate it. Don't we, Shayna?
Donna benefits from social assistance and donations.
This woman makes Joan Crawford look like a saint. Not only is she making her daughter ill, but she's making a quick and easy buck at the same time.
What no one knows is that Donna is exhibiting classic signs of a rare and highly disturbing condition.
It's going to be so helpful to us, isn't it, Shayna?
Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a disorder in which a spouse or a caregiver fabricates illness in their partner or child.
So let me spell it out for you non-believers. Basically, your loved one isn't killing you. They're simply making you sick so that they can get attention.
I would do anything for my daughter.
It's a controversial concept and not universally accepted by mental health experts.
So as an investigator, you've got to wonder, is it deliberate abuse or something that the instigator can't help? Is it a real illness or a way of rationalizing appalling behavior? In my 25 years of law enforcement, I've seen strange motives, but making your daughter believe she's dying so you can get attention, well, that pushes the crazy meter full tilt.
Shayna is forced into a life of deception until one day she makes a glorious discovery: the internet. Shayna discovers there's a whole world out there beyond the prison her mother has created for her, and she's determined to explore it.
Up until now, Shayna isn't a typical teen. But deprive them of candy and they'll want candy. Deprive them of a social life, you get the picture.
Shayna becomes quickly obsessed with the new opportunities presented.
Shayna sets up 3 secret social media accounts and communicates with people at night when Donna is asleep. And by people, I mean boys. And by boys, I mean men.
Shayna's first attempt at independence takes place at a comic book convention, a rare treat from Donna for her sick daughter. Shayna takes the first chance she can get and ducks out of Donna's view.
Shayna! Get your hands off my daughter, you pervert! She's only 16! I'm gonna call the police.
Beware a mother scorned, especially one with psychological issues.
And you are never going to leave me. And this, you are never going to see again. Ever. Ever.
Every rational human being has their breaking point. And the moment in the hotel room is the proverbial last straw for Shayna.
Donna eventually gives back the computer, figuring that Shayna has learned her lesson. But Shayna has other plans and begins plotting to escape her mother and their life of deception for good.
The internet has changed the world in a lot of ways, from how we interact with each other to how we form intimate relationships.
Enter Robbie. Maybe not the greatest catch in the world, but for an isolated young girl whose only means of communicating with the outside world is online, not bad. Together, they create a vivid online fantasy world. But fantasy soon crosses over to reality, and they start dreaming of a life together.
There's only one thing standing in the way of her happily ever after. Mommy dearest. So you might think to yourself, why not just run away? Shayna probably thinks her mother will track her down and destroy her one chance at happiness.
After a year of dating online, Shayna and Robbie finally meet IRL, in real life, at a movie theater. The movie can wait. They find a private spot to consummate their relationship. It's no honeymoon suite, but it'll do just fine.
Let's run away together.
What?
Yes.
I can't. My mom. No, she wouldn't understand. She needs to be gone for me to be with you.
Shayna reveals to Robbie her big plan to permanently erase her jailkeeper, AKA her mother, from her life. And she needs Robbie's help.
If I had a girlfriend and she told me on our first official date that she wanted to kill her mother, I'd run for the hills. But then again, love can cause people to throw caution to the wind. If I were to venture a guess, I'd say the fantasy world Shayna has created has crossed over from fantasy to delusion, and she's looking for someone to do her bidding.
Let's do it.
While Donna sleeps like a log, Shayna sneaks out of her bedroom and quietly lets Robbie into her house.
That's perfect. We gotta do this.
Are you sure about this?
100%. I've never been more sure about anything.
With Donna blissfully unaware, her beloved daughter prepares to cut her sleep a little short.
Years of psychological abuse may give Donna cause for regret, as her daughter, Shayna, executes her plan for freedom.
Children killing their parents is very rare. It's even more rare for a daughter to be involved in killing her mother. But Shayna is caught in a perfect storm. She lives an isolated life, and she has an unwavering belief that there is no other way out.
Once Donna is dead, Shayna takes $3,000 of her mother's money, and with Robbie, heads to his home in Salt Lake City, where she's ultimately arrested. The people of Cheyenne are utterly shocked. There, on the evening news, is Shayna. Her hands are cuffed behind her back. But more shocking than the murder charge is the fact that she's walking. Although the murder appears premeditated, given the unique nature of her circumstance, Shayna is allowed to plead guilty to second-degree murder. She's sentenced to 15 years in prison. Some are convinced Shayna's intent was pure evil. Others see Shayna as a brainwashed victim who made a desperate bid to free herself from her monstrous mother.
Mother-daughter relationships can be difficult to navigate, and a daughter killing her own mother can be hard to understand. But maybe Shayna inherited more from her mother than she realized when she entered this made-up fantasy world. She simply played her part in the fairy tale and rid the world of the villain.